I'd be council president. Okay, I think we're ready. Everyone ready?
Hold on.
No, we're not ready.
That's not what we're doing first, though. First is finance or?
No, first is, you were really having a problem with the order of,
No, first is the audit.
no, first at 5:30 is the
Oh, okay.
public hearing.
All right.
which
I am
we
having
are-
a trouble with this. I
We
can see
are
it all.
really having,
Okay.
the audit is part of it.
It's been a long week.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, got it.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
long week.
Whatever that. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Troy City Council. Today is March 6th. We have at this time planned and noticed a public hearing, so we will just get right into it. I'm calling the public hearing to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Keel,
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren, Councilmember Vera,
Present.
Councilmember Soriento. Here. Councilmember Casey.
Here.
Council President Steele,
Present.
all are present.
Council President, I move that the council resolve itself into a committee of the whole for the purpose of conducting a public hearing.
Clerk, will you please read the notice of publication?
The City Council of the City of Troy will hold a public hearing on March 6, 2025 at 5:30 PM in the City Council Legislative Chamber, Troy City Hall, 433 River Street, 5th floor, Troy, New York, in connection with the following matters. Proposed Ordinance 11 of 2025, amending Troy City Code, Chapter 285 to establish a planned development district at 74 New Turnpike Road.
The public hearing, as was just noticed, is now open. The rules of the chair pursuant to section 234 of the special rules of the Troy City Council are as follows. No one but a citizen or taxpayer of the city or an attorney at law representing a citizen or taxpayer or group of citizens or taxpayers shall be allowed to speak, provided, however, that the president of the council may, in his or her discretion, allow other interested persons to speak. The person wishing to speak shall, upon being recognized by the chair, give his or her name and residence, and if an attorney, the names and addresses of every person whom she represents. All remarks shall be directed to the chair, and no colloquy between or among persons presented shall be permitted. No person shall extend his or her remarks beyond 5 minutes, but if the person represents several others, the chair may make reasonable and appropriate exceptions to this time limitation. The allowance of any rebuttal remarks shall be solely within the discretion of the chair. At this time, is there anyone in the room who is interested in speaking on this matter? Please come forward. Probably not.
Sorry about that.
Either hold it or put it up there.
That's fine. Thank you. Hi, good evening, Madam President, council members. Thank you. Andy Brick from the Brick Law Firm. On behalf of the applicant for this proposed PDD at 74 New Turnpike Road. This is quite an exciting project for me to be involved in. With me is Karen Modeleski from Bowler Engineering. We're very excited about this because it's the first of its kind. It's the first of its kind in the Capital District. It is tiny homes, the tiny home concept, which is taking off like wildfire throughout the country. There hasn't been any specific project here in the Capital District, so we're hoping that Troy is going to be the first. Troy has historically been a leader in innovation, and this is a very innovative project that hopefully you're going to be the first in the Capital District to cite a tiny home project. It is located at 74 New Turnpike Road, which is the former Leonard Hospital. It's about 6.8 acres. And what we are proposing to do is an 86-unit tiny home, individual unit, multifamily housing project. The site is big enough to build a big, ugly rectangular apartment building, and we're looking to do the exact opposite of that. We want to create a site plan that is much more welcoming and friendly and more of a suburban neighborhood with individual homes, you know, front porches, sidewalks, and we're proposing it. In order to do it, we would need PDD legislation, and that's what we're asking you to consider. As I mentioned, it's 86 separate tiny homes, 6.8 acres, 201 parking spaces to go along with it. We have submitted a site plan, and we've had initial conversations with the planning board in January, and the planning board did declare lead agency under the seeker review process. And they then also made a positive recommendation, which I'm sure you're aware, to this board. They are in favor of you considering this PDD. I know you have a very long agenda tonight, so I'm not going to bore you with all the project details, but we do have some boards up if anybody would like to see them. And we are also, our entire project team is here to answer any questions that you or the public may have regarding the project. And we thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Andy. Does anyone have any questions for Andy?
To Council President, I have a question.
Councilman Keel?
Is there any opportunity for these individuals who are renting to purchase, or can these be, are they separate, or it's just one big plot and lots of little houses on it?
Sure. So that question about purchase has been asked by a number of people. Right now, our plan is it's going to be rental only. I should have also mentioned it's going to be age restricted. This is going to be a senior housing project only. But it is a rental product. It will all be on one particular property. So any of the area is common area that everyone can share. It's the best way I can explain it is it's a deconstructed apartment building where rather than putting everybody in one building, the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth, sixth floor, i.e. the Leonard Hospital building, it's deconstructed to the individual units throughout the site. I believe we may have pictures of what the units are going to look like, just so you can see. Tiny homes is a new concept. It's just taking off. It's actually, I think, the way of the future because of construction costs. You have the ability at scale to do these tiny units, which actually is a little bit cheaper than doing the large scale building. And it just looks a little bit better. If you can see, they're basically miniature homes as you look from the outside. And when you get inside, they have the functional space of a great room, one bedroom, usually a kitchen and eating area in the same location, and a cathedral ceiling. So it's cooler than just going in an apartment. You know, you go in and go open the door from the hallway and go in your square apartment and have two windows. This is more of an at-home feel, and we think it's really going to take off.
And another question. I heard the rent is going to be like $1,500 a month for a 500 square foot apartment.
So that we have different size units that range from 500 square feet to 800 square feet. And we anticipate that the rents probably will be between 1,300 to 1,800. We haven't landed on that yet now. But we think it's going to be at the range where it gives people an opportunity for an individual unit that they may not have. So we're trying to keep the cost down as low as possible. And we recognize it isn't age restricted as well. So we recognize the limitations on seniors on fixed income. So we will do our best to keep the rates down, but it is going to be a market rate project.
Is there going to be an opportunity, or let's just say an exception for some 45-year-olds or 30-year-olds, et cetera?
I believe under equal housing laws that we have to allow for spouses and dependents of somebody who is under 55 in most instances. In this instance, because it's the tiny homes, we don't think we'll see too much of that because they're not conducive to much more than one or maybe two people. So we don't think we'll see people, at least one person has to be 55 under equal housing regs. But we don't think we'll see too many people, maybe a couple spouses that fall underneath, but we don't think like children or grandchildren or anything like that. We don't expect it. There's just no room.
I agree. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Andy. Any other questions?
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren?
So the upkeep, the maintenance, you know, it looks like there's going to be cute little lawns and gardens and things like that. Is that all going to be included?
It's all included. We're proposing, maintenance on site. We'll have a full-time staff and everything outside is maintained by the management company / landlord.
Okay. And I just also, I'm assuming that emergency services there's plenty of room for.
Excellent question. It was also raised at the planning board meeting, and we did assure them that we would work with the fire department. We'd provide turning radiuses and we'd get sign off from the fire department, both in terms of access as water sources, location of hydrants, all of that. Those discussions are ongoing. Since we were at the planning board, we have amended our site plan somewhat based upon comments that were made at that meeting, as well as if you're aware, there are new DEC wetland regulations, and there is a stream to the west of this property. So we pulled in a little bit so we don't run afoul of those new regulations. So the fire department hasn't seen this version yet, but we will do the same thing we did with the last version. We're going to sit with them and make sure they're fully comfortable with everything we're doing.
Thank you.
Council President,
Councilman Barrett?
what type of construction are these slab on grade modular buildings? Where they be built off site and shipped, or are they going to be constructed on site?
I was doing so well. Now you got to a question I can't answer, but my
my job.
client, Anthony, stick built
Stick-built?
on
Okay.
location.
On location, okay. Does the PDD include any, aside from the additional housing stock, any additional public benefit?
Well, the public benefit is senior housing at a price range that's attainable, but
Okay.
no specific other public benefit. Specifically, however, sidewalks out on New Turnpike were discussed in front of the project site. And again, we don't have final site plan approval from the planning board. We know we have to go back for them, both for a negative secret determination as well as final site plan. So I suspect those type of conversations would take place with them.
No further questions.
Okay,
Council
Eddie.
President,
Councilman Brosnan?
sorry.
Sure.
In the proposal we got in our email, it said, the hope is to reuse the water infrastructure for the, plumbing and sewer coming from the old Leonard Hospital. Is your plan contingent on that infrastructure being viable, or is there a backup in case it isn't viable?
This is Karen, our engineer. I heard water and sewer and I immediately said I'm handing it up.
Good evening, Karen Majanowski from Bowler Engineering for the record. So in regards to water and sewer, also something that's underway and ongoing as we go through this process and site plan review. However, the former use was a large hospital of about 140 beds. So when you look at the demand for water usage and sewer usage that was there prior compared to these new small homes with brand new fixtures, things are more efficient these days than when the hospital was built. Overall, we anticipate a reduction in water and sewer usage. So those types of things and details have to be finalized with the city. But overall, we anticipate reusing those connections that were there previously and then bringing new mains in and around the site, as Andy mentioned, as well as additional fire hydrants to satisfy the fire department's requirements.
Thank you.
How, so those, the water infrastructure you're talking about has been fairly vacant, like not used. Is that accurate?
So nothing's being used on the site currently since
Yeah.
the building's been demolished.
So since then till now, is if it did deteriorate in any way, is there some kind of plan to?
Yeah, so from the main, it's gonna be all new water run throughout here, yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Steele.
Oh,
I just really had a comment. I was going to say I was in with others on the initial awarding of this project. We selected your project. I did think it was really something new. I was kind of sick of seeing large apartment complexes and ones with retail downstairs. Not that that might apply. It's been an empty eyesore. I actually spent a long night there when I was a captain of the fire department at a fire there. That was in my district, and it was a long, long time ago. So it's good to see development. But especially at my age, I'm about to turn 60 years old. It really captivated me because I'm at the point, like many people my age, where we want to downsize from that big family home. And I thought this was perfect. You could go to a small home, just your spouse or your girlfriend, and move into a small house like this. And with rents now, I thought it was a pretty reasonable rent. And I'm just glad that finally we're to the point where we're going to see something done with that property.
And I agree with you completely. I've been doing land use. I've been representing projects throughout New York State for about 30 years now. This is probably the coolest one I've been involved in, just because it's so unique. It's so different than, even I'm tired of representing the guys that want to put a parking garage and 4 floors on top of it. So I agree with you. It is exciting. I think it's going to be very attractive. I think it's going to be very popular. And I'm excited to be a part of it. And I'm excited it's going to happen in Troy as well.
Councilmember McLaren?
I'm just wondering, do we know whether or not, there are lead service lines on that property? And will that be an
So
issue?
there's history there and there was cleanup done and there's reports. We provided a portion of a report that was done and submitted to the city prior. So we have to meet any and all guidelines as far as anything else that's remaining goes. But that environmental analysis was done from what we can see when the hospital was taken down.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you speaking. Just for your information, this is the first of 2 public hearings. Actually, Ordinance 11 is going to be pulled this evening. And due to the work of the planning board, I believe. And so we will have another public hearing when they complete their work.
Okay.
But this has been very informative and we
Sure.
really thank you for coming out
Oh,
tonight.
Thank you for
And we'll-
having us.
We'll keep you informed on the next, should you want to do a redo.
Okay, thank you. And we're hoping to be on the planning board's March 18th agenda for them to consider a negative declaration, which
Great.
would then give us the ability to come back to you for your consideration on the
Wonderful.
PDD. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Given that information, though, is there anyone who we'd be happy to entertain any comments from anyone on this project? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
But that wasn't the finance meeting.
She said it's cold.
All right, so what are we doing? Am I pausing? Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah, pause for 2 minutes.
Oh, they're not made by union?
There's no message being sent by this. Appreciation all.
Evening, folks.
Somebody turn us off?
We'll try again. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Finance Committee of the Troy City Council. Today is March 6th. It is 6 p.m. Please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilmember Keel,
Present.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Present.
Councilmember McLaren,
Present.
Councilmember Vera,
Present.
Councilmember Soriento.
Here.
Councilmember Casey
Present.
and Council President Steele, all present and accounted for. This evening, we have a presentation by our independent auditor from Bonadeo, I believe. They are in the room. Oh, there's Alan. You were hiding. Hi there. If you would come forward to wherever you're comfortable, either at the table or at the podium, whatever you wish. We look forward to hearing from you.
Microphone.
That's the media one.
Okay, okay,
I can't.
okay.
How was that?
Poor Sandra.
Sorry. I apologize for that.
Cleared her sinuses.
Good evening. My name's Alan Walther. I'm a partner with the Bonadeo Group. We are the city's external auditors, and we've completed our audit for the year ended December 31st, 2023. The city council was provided with drafts of the reports yesterday. Hopefully you had a chance to review them. For this evening's meeting, I'd just like to present the overall results for the audit and then open it up to any questions that you may have. I'd like to thank Gabrielle, Jean, and Jack, and the rest of the city staff as well for all their assistance in helping us get the audit done. And the audit is a collaborative effort, and we can't audit what is not provided to us. So thank you very much. The reports that we'll talk about tonight are the audited financial statements of the city, required communications, and a management letter. The required communications letter, the items of note for the city council. There were no significant new accounting policies adopted during the year. Significant estimates and disclosures were identified and described. Adjustments to the financial statements were reviewed and agreed to by the city. There were no disagreements with management related to any financial accounting, reporting, or auditing matters. And the audit was delayed due to difficulties reconciling accounts and closing the books for 2023. The audited financial statements on page 1 of the report, if you have it, is our opinions. And the opinions that the government-wide financial statements, which we'll talk about what exactly those mean. The city receives an adverse opinion on those, meaning that those financial statements do not present fairly the financial position of the city. That is not new. That has always been the case with the city. The city has opted not to depreciate its capital assets, and because of that, the financial statements are not fairly presented at the government-wide statement. The fund level financial statements, the city will receive an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. That is the highest level of assurance we can give on your financial statements. And then the component units, your component units, the Troy IDA, the LDC, the Land Bank, and the CRC. There's a qualified opinion on those, and that's because the LDC receives a qualified opinion. The LDC is the largest component of those, and that relates to impairment issues with one of the properties that they own. The government auditing standards report, there is a material weakness in internal control, which we'll talk about later on. And we found no instances of non-compliance with laws and regulations. The financial highlights for the city for the year, the city is required to present two sets of financial statements, the government-wide financial statements and the fund level financial statements. And what the difference is at a very high level is the government-wide financial statements are basically all of the funds of the city combined together, plus your long-term assets minus your long-term liabilities, all accounted for using the full accrual method of accounting, which means that you recognize assets regardless of when you either consume them or turn them into cash, and you recognize liabilities regardless of when you pay them out in cash. Whereas at the fund level, when we talk about the fund level financial statements, the city uses the modified accrual method of accounting, which is the same method of accounting you use for budgeting. And at the modified accrual method or the modified accrual level, you're looking at most a 1 year picture of the city. So there are two required financial statements, shows two different pictures of the city, but both are required by generally accepted accounting principles. So the highlights at the government-wide level, the net position of the city increased $22.4 million during the year from $154.5 million to $176.8 million. If you look at the statement of net position in detail, which is on page 13 and 14 of the financial statements, your current assets totaled $98.4 million. That's comprised predominantly of cash and receivables. Your non-current assets were $411 million. That's your buildings, infrastructure, vehicles, etc. Again, that's not depreciated. That's why that number is so large. Deferred outflows for pension and other post-employment benefits were $58.8 million. Your current liabilities were $102.4 million. That consists of accounts payable and accruals, bond anticipation notes in the current portion of debt. Your long-term liabilities were $235.6 million. That's comprised of other post-employment benefits, bonds, pension liabilities, and compensated absences. And then your deferred inflows for your pension plan and your other post-employment benefits plan totaled $53.9 million. Your fund level financial statements. Excuse me, I'm just gonna get the fund level financial statements, which again are accounted for using the modified accrual method of accounting, and the balance sheet can be found on page 16. The fund balance for all of your governmental funds combined increased by $5.5 million during the year to $4.1 million. Your general fund balance decreased $619,000, resulting in a general fund balance of $18.2 million. Your general fund is your primary operating fund. Your general fund results versus the budget were also favorable by $963,000. Your capital projects fund, you'll note, shows a deficit fund balance of approximately $30 million. That should not be a concern of the city council because the capital projects fund also has shows $51.9 million in bond anticipation notes payable, as those bond anticipation notes are either redeemed from appropriations or converted into long-term debt. The capital projects fund will recognize revenue in the future. Okay. The government auditing standards report, we did have a material weakness in the city's internal controls,
And that was because the general ledger was not reconciled timely and reconciliations were not prepared timely. The city has hired a controller and has been working with a consultant to get the books and records accounted for up to date. We are confident that for 2024's audit, the audit will get back on track and will be issued and complete no later than September 30th, which is the due date. I think the audit for 2022, which we also performed, was issued in August of 2023. So our expectation is that the 2023 lateness of the audit is a one-time thing, and that in 2024 we'll get back on track. The general process in performing the audit is once the city has prepared its AFR, which is the annual financial report that you file with the state controller's office, which is due by April 30th, then we begin our auditing right afterwards. So our expectation is that the city will have the AFR filed timely by April 30th of 2025. We will begin auditing in May, and hopefully to complete on time. We did issue a management letter as well, with a few comments. Your bank account reconciliations, there was a variance between the bank account reconciliation and the general ledger. We were comfortable that variance was immaterial. However, the city should identify exactly what the variances are. With regard to property taxes are a very complicated area for the city. The city collects its own taxes. You collect taxes for Rensselaer County. You collect taxes. You enforce taxes for the Troy City School District. You collect taxes for the library, for the Business Improvement District, and I'm sure I'm missing one or two others, as well as re-levies. The property taxes are complicated. It affects multiple accounts within your financial statements. There was a lot of work back and forth with the city personnel and the consultants to get those all accounted for correctly. So that should be done for 2024 more timely. With regard to federal awards, the city receives a good deal of federal aid, and we found that the federal revenue was not recorded accurately. It was predominantly posted in state aid. Again, we worked with the city and with the city's consultants to adjust that to get the federal aid dollars reported correctly. That's very important for the city to capture its federal aid dollars reported correctly, because that is the impetus for your single audit, your federal awards. Tying into the federal awards that are due from other governments. Again, there were adjustments necessary to record balances due from New York State and the federal government. And then the last comment that we had when we were looking at the results versus the budget, there were some anomalies that popped up, and diving further down into that, we found that there was a payroll, or actually a couple of payrolls that were posted twice during the year. So again, we worked with the city and the consultants to reverse that. They weren't paid twice, they were just posted twice. So we worked through that with the city to get those payroll numbers corrected. But it should be, again, our recommendation is that, payroll, there's a very detailed spreadsheet that is prepared. Each payroll should reconcile that back, to the quarterly reports, your 941 reports, just to make sure that payroll is posted correctly. Payroll is of course the largest expenditure that the city makes. And that's the extent, at a high level of my commentary, unless the council members have any questions.
Council members,
Council President?
Councilman McLaren.
I just had a question about, you said there was a variance between the ledger balance and the bank balance. Can you tell us what that was?
There bank reconciliation versus the general ledger, there was a variance of, it was approximately $30,000, which was just unidentified as to what it was. For the, the size of the city, that was not a material variance, so we were okay with that. However, what our comment was that you should, reconcile that down to zero.
Okay. And so going forward, so that these mistakes are not, repeated, does BST have this information? Because I know they're assisting going forward. And then, of course, Jack, you're aware of these things to make sure that they aren't repeated. Is there communication there between?
Yes, there absolutely is.
Okay.
We have worked very, very closely with the consultants to reconcile our audited trial balance to the city's books. And everything is in sync right now for 2023, which set you up to roll right into 2024.
Thank you.
Council
Councilmember
President.
Keel?
Yes, you do a lot of, other municipalities throughout the state,
We do.
maybe even outside of the state. Just from your vantage point, how do we look in comparison with these other, venues that you are working with? Are we looking good as is what I'm,
So, our audit opinions typically for a municipality of your size, all of the audit opinions are typically unmodified. Okay, the city does receive an adverse opinion at the government-wide level because there was a decision made literally 20+ years ago not to depreciate capital assets, and because of that, you get an adverse opinion. Most, again, of the cities of your size or bigger that we audit are depreciating their capital assets. They are receiving an unmodified opinion. Most, so we do have, material weaknesses, sometimes. Again, we've done the city's audit for a number of years. Typical years, we don't have a material weakness. I think the internal control issues are hopefully, obviously we can't write our 2024 audit report until we do the 2024 audit, but our expectation is that, when we get back and do the audit, that the findings for 2023 will be resolved.
thank you.
Councilman Rivera?
You said the city doesn't depreciate its assets. If we were to do that, that would lower the that would lower that line item from
411 million to
some amount less. And you're saying we haven't depreciated those assets in 20 years?
Correct.
So what led to the 4.6% increase then year over year? On that line item in 22, it was 393.5 million. So year over year. So not only do we not depreciate assets, but we've increased it.
You record as capital assets are
So we've built some new things and we've added it to it.
We are adding to it, exactly.
Okay.
You're adding to it, just not adding assets, and assets as they're disposed or taken off. But as as you use fire trucks, as you use police vehicles, as you use the buildings, they're not depreciated.
So the difference between current and non-current is we depreciate one line item, but not the other. Is that the case? What's the difference?
Current assets are predominantly cash,
Okay.
accounts receivable, things that are, so the accounting definition that you asked, you get it. A current asset is something that is expected to be used in 1 year, and then non-current is a year or longer.
Okay, so a current asset would be something you wouldn't depreciate anyway.
Right.
Okay.
No, right, exactly.
Okay. And we saw a decrease on that line item of 25%.
In your current assets, I think if you look at Comparatively, your current assets 2023 versus 2022, your current assets have gone down. I believe that your current liabilities have gone down as well in sync, right? You use cash, right? Cash goes down, but correspondingly, accounts payable goes down as
Okay.
well.
And non-current liabilities then would be,
Your non-current liabilities are the long-term portion of bonds payable, so long-term debt that you've issued. The pension liability, the city picks up its proportionate share of the liability that it owes to New York State for the ERS and the PFRS, the two state pension plans.
Mhm.
And then the biggest number in your non-current liabilities is other post-employment benefits, which is an actuarial estimate of the city's liability to its retirees and to its employees for health insurance after they retire. And that's calculated by an actuary.
no, I, when I was going through this, I noticed some of those, the pension plans that you're speaking about. I think it's on page 50 of the document. That liability, I mean, am I reading that correctly? Those are very large numbers. Is that just the city of Troy's liability, or is that the system itself?
There is, so the city of Troy, within that, I'm not looking at page 50 right now, but within that note, which goes on for pages and pages, it shows the city's proportionate share of ERS and PFRS. And then I think there is also, and this is probably what you're looking at, if it's very, very large, it also shows the entire liability for the ERS and the PFRS.
Oh, for the entire system.
For
as
the
a whole,
entire
not the city
system,
of
and
Troy.
then what
Okay,
happens is that the entire system is audited and the city gets a letter with its proportionate share, and then you record that.
Okay. The only other question I think I had at the moment was, you had mentioned there was a $30 million
Deficit?
deficit. Yes, and you said that the only way to write that would be to bond in order to pay off.
So if you look at, if you're on the page, the balance sheet,
Yeah, I'm on page 16.
on page 16, so the capital projects fund shows a $30 million deficit. But if you look up several lines towards the middle of the page, there are bond anticipation notes of approximately $51 million.
Mm-hmm.
The way, that's just the quirk of governmental accounting. Bond anticipation notes are reported as current liabilities. The city will not be paying off that entire $51 million in 2024. That didn't happen. So it gets rolled over, it gets redeemed. As you redeem them or you turn them into long-term debt, then they get it gets recognized as revenue and that deficit goes away.
Okay, understood. And then the debt service would be recognized as a liability each year going forward.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Any other questions? Well, Alan, I want to thank you so much. I do believe we would like hard copies of this. It was, I have to confess, a little difficult to navigate the emails. And for some who may not have printers, we needed magnifying glasses. No. At any rate, it would be helpful going forward. And I'm assuming if we have questions, we could
Absolutely.
email you or you could come back or whatever.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Say a few things. After it's passed tonight, it will go online, a link, and you will get a hard copy, which is normal after the draft.
Right.
If you do want a copy, we'd be happy, or Maria can certainly print a copy. I had to print it myself also, but we will have a link online if it passes tonight. And just lastly, I really want to commend the comptroller's team. They put a lot of work in. As you know, the books weren't closed in 2023, entries from March of 2023. With BST, the comptroller's team, Gabrielle, before Jack came on board, just tremendous folks and put a lot of time in. Thank you to Bondio, and certainly Alan's available for follow-up questions. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
We will move on. We are, for folks who have just joined us, we are in the middle of our Finance Committee meeting. We'll move on. We have a number of ordinances and resolutions. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on any agenda item at this time?
Jonna Favreau, 67 Excelsior Ave. I just wanted to say thank you. It was really great news this week, seeing that the $300,000 would be appropriated toward Kinloch Park. It was a little bit of a plot twist since December when I was last up here advocating for Kinloch. It's been over 2 years since the children in the east side have had playground equipment. So I just wanted to say thank you to the ARPA steering committee for making that decision. And I look forward to working with the administration to see that project through. So thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak on any agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move along. Ordinance 11 has been removed. Ordinance 12. Ordinance amending the 2025 Special Revenue Fund budget to accept and appropriate funds from the Rensselaer County Department of Health for the purpose of administering the lead rental registry program. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, seconded by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion on the resolution or the ordinance. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted unanimously. Ordinance 13, ordinance transferring funds within the 2025 general fund. Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion. Did I hear that the mayor wanted to say something about this?
Thank you very much, City Council. Just, I did want to report on the 911. Obviously you see the 1.04 mil, which is being transferred from contingency for this. Do be aware that in addition to the 2.5 mil from the ice rink, in addition to the county and city who are partnering, and the county actually is paying for additional code enforcement officers for lead in homes. That initiative kicks off in October. Many other things will be coming down the pipe. County Executive McLaughlin and I have had great discussions. So going into 2025, just stay tuned. There's a number of new partnerships that will be announced. So yes, you know, the good news, it hasn't increased. We continue discussions on 911, but please be aware some other great partnerships will be forthcoming in the next few weeks and few months.
And the
So thank
terms-
you.
The
Mhm.
term of this contract is how many years?
5 years. Well, it will continue, as Councilmember Vera knows. We have not developed a new contract. We're working off the old, which actually is, you know, in good form because it accelerates very minimal each year. So what we will do is continue, hopefully before the county's budget next year, negotiating, hopefully get maybe a lesser acceleration, but right now we're under the old.
Council President.
Councilman Vera.
So it's going to go up 2% a year then?
Correct,
the old one.
until a new one is developed. But, you know, now, obviously, before the county budget of 2026, we are in discussions. And, you know, I must tell you, it really is historic with the county's partnerships. the county in the city, the $8 million that was appropriated to RPI, that's going in the heart of the city for the region, obviously, for the bridge project and the incubator project. But you will see some very direct, more partnerships to Troy. So just stay tuned. I'll bring them to the council as soon as we get them. But it really is positive news.
So looking forward to 2026. I know we just basically finished a budget season. We would be planning on budgeting for that money for the next four years.
Potentially, I'm
Unless
still working.
unless something
Correct.
negotiated.
Correct.
It would have to be a mutual.
Correct,
negotiation.
absolutely. And we would come back to the council.
Okay.
Okay,
That leaves, what was it, 460,000 in contingency?
correct.
Do you see any other immediate need to tap into that contingency?
No, not immediate, no.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Any other further discussion on ordinance 13? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance is adopted unanimously. Ordinance 14. Ordinance amending the general fund, capital projects fund, and miscellaneous special grants fund budgets to appropriate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento,
Second.
Councilmember Keel, discussion.
Yeah, Council President.
Councilman Vera.
So this is an ARPA transfer. Is someone from the administration able to chime in on this? I know we had to, do all of the work towards the end of last year to allocate and obligate funds. So we're able to, this is transferring funds from an existing project to another existing project, and that's allowed
Correct.
under-
So the rules are with ARPA is that if you have an existing project under contract past the December 31st, 2025 deadline, and that project completely gets fulfilled and wrapped up and there's leftover money, you are allowed to re-obligate to another existing project.
And this was just the water line project. There
The
was
South Troy
another,
Industrial Road.
like, was it on the tip or something? Another
Yeah, so there was a
transportation?
split,
Okay.
so kind of same project with split elements of the project to fulfill, the funding obligations.
Not that I'm complaining, but how did we come in under budget by that much? on that?
Yes, well, if you, a big part of this project, which is also, which was a huge plus, is kind of part of the deal of moving the salt pile and where that road would go, and that settlement agreement tied into this a little bit, and I think gave us a little bit some short funds, from my understanding, if I'm correct.
So I understand the roadway project was, we kind of phased it, right? This was
Yes.
phase 2, and now we had
Yep.
a kind of phase 2A, phase 2B. Was the water line portion of that completed though, in its entirety? I don't remember the extent
Yeah,
of the
so-
water line. Did it go all the way to Adams, even though the road doesn't go all the way to Adams?
So it ended up, so part of that, they ended up rerouting a bit where that water line went, if I'm from understanding. I don't have my project notes right in front of me, and that ended up resulting in some savings.
Okay, so I guess what I'm asking is, we're not going to then have to find some funding to complete that water line project. It's complete.
That is correct.
Okay.
It is completed. Everything, every invoice and PO has been paid.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 14 is adopted unanimously. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 20, resolution appointing a commissioner of deeds for the city of Troy. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren. Second,
Second.
Councilmember Keel.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
I would like to make a motion to amend this resolution. We have two more to add. To be perfectly honest, it's Irene and I for Commissioner of Deeds. We're busy all this week. So I know we need unanimous consent, but I would like to add these two if I do have the votes. Thank you.
Is everyone willing to add that?
Yeah, I'll
Anyone
second.
opposed? You have your unanimous.
Opposed,
consent.
no, I'm kidding.
Give it to Marie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any discussion on the Commissioner of Deeds? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 20 adopted. Resolution 21. Resolution proclaiming March 2025 as Women's History Month in the city of Troy. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Brosnan, Councilmember Spain McLaren. At the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion,
Council President,
Councilmember.
I would
Clerk.
like to be included as a
Okay.
sponsor.
Clerk, would you please add
You
Councilmember?
can add me.
How about
as
if
well.
we put everyone's name on
Yeah.
that? Okay,
Sounds good.
sounds good.
Want to do that for 22 as well then?
That's probably a
Yeah.
good idea.
Let's get ahead of it.
Mhm.
We'll add that to 22 as well, everyone.
Make a motion
Yes.
If everyone's on it.
Yeah, we won't do it yet. We'll wait. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 21 is adopted unanimously. Resolution 22, resolution proclaiming March 2025 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the city of Troy. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Brosnan, Councilmember Spain McLaren, at the request of the administration, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Vera, second.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren. Discussion, we'll be adding everyone else to
Thank
this
you.
as well.
Yes, thank you.
All in favor?
Council.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Councilmember McLaren.
I just am, again, pleased that we are recognizing this month. And I think for a lot of us, awareness is 24/7. And I think what we need to encourage more of is acceptance. Because we have a lot of great contributions, to the city, to our community at large and to the world, by people with developmental disabilities. They have a lot to offer.
Well said, thank you. Anything else? Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution 22 is adopted unanimously. Resolution 23, resolution accepting the 2023 financial statement audit, single audit of federal expenditures, and single audit of New York State Department of Transportation expenditures as prepared by the Bonadio Group, Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Soriento with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adopted 7-0. Resolution 24, resolution in support of Assembly Bill 4612, arterial maintenance reimbursement bill. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, at the request of the administration. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, boy. I'm going to give it to Councilmember Keel with a second by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion?
Council President,
Councilman Vera?
can someone from the administration explain this, the legislation? Like how the city benefits from this bill? I was trying to, think back to my time at the city, and I don't, does this apply to Hoosick Street? Does it apply to, what is that as you're coming off the 378 bridge?
It would apply to 378
Okay.
Hoosick Street and 6th Ave, right by George Beasion's. So John McDonald sponsored a bill. It's to try to get municipalities money for those particular entranceways into a city. He does not have a Senate sponsor yet, but I'm looking up the bill right now because It was supposed to happen imminently. So NICOM actually sent out a notice encouraging municipalities to back the bill to try to give it support. This is us just saying we support it. Hopefully the assembly will pass it. I know he's not just going to Jake Ashby, but a majority member in the Senate to try to give it a better chance to pass. So it would have to pass both houses, governor sign it, and then obviously roll out a program. But
So it sounds like we're in the early stages, so I'll
very
keep
early.
it very brief.
Yeah.
But this would only apply to funds the city spent. This wouldn't apply to the, if we spend CHIPS funding, that's already a grant,
Correct.
right? So that's,
Correct.
this
That's
would have to be
separate.
our own dollars on a
Correct.
roadway project.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And on that note, CHIPS funding, let's all keep our fingers crossed that that is not cut. Obviously, it's critical to, us here in Troy, New York State and upstate. So I'm sure that that will be reconsidered. Thanks.
We're holding you to that.
I said I'm sure.
Oh, okay, okay, you said you're sure. All right. All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 24 is adopted unanimously. Resolution 25, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a project development agreement with Siemens Industry, Inc. for provision of temporary restaurant and pro shop facilities at Freer Park. Councilmember Casey. At the request of the administration. Is there a second, first?
Motion.
We'll do a motion first. And we'll give that to Councilmember Soriento. And a second by Councilmember. Do we have a second to resolution 25?
I'll second it.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the resolution.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey.
I have to say, the city having a viable restaurant or a food service place at Fair Park couldn't be any more important, and a successful one also. I've seen it in the past when it's been bad. We put a lot of money into our golf course, and the success of the Park Pub goes hand in hand with that, and really enhances the whole experience, and also neighbors go there to dine and everything. I have to tell you, I field a lot of phone calls, as we all did, I'm sure, about the future of Park Pub. So we all did our due diligence. I know we did. We made a lot of phone calls, had a lot of conversations. I was up there begging the leaseholder to stay open until, the building went down. But ultimately, he didn't want to do it, and it closed. And to my surprise, the leaseholder decided to sublease to Brad Stevens. Somebody had a long professional and personal relationship with him. And I was just really excited, as other people were. Brad just does wonderful, wonderful work. When he first came to the Park Pub with his father and Mark Barron, they are just wonderful, wonderful work. And Brad's just done great things everywhere he's gone. And he's been rewarded for that in many ways. He had the concession at the Saratoga Polo and a bunch of state buildings and different things like that. So I have a total confidence in him. He really does think out of the box. This is exciting. And then I couldn't have been happier to see that this project included Siemens. Siemens, if you don't know who they are, walk into one of the new county buildings. These buildings are beautiful. Not only that, if you've ever been in one of the new senior centers, I have entertained in numerous senior centers and been in the new county senior centers. These buildings couldn't be any, they're beautiful. And it's a wonderful place for Rensselaer County seniors. And of course, we all saw what they did with the Knickerbocker ice rink. What a wonderful job. And it was a lot more complicated than I thought, and just a wonderful, wonderful job. And to see that Brad and the city and Siemens are working together on this project, I couldn't be any happier. Just real quick, Saratoga Polo had an event space and it was glass walls and different things. We'll come to find out it's been in storage. We're going to purchase that and pennies on the dollar, I guess. I guess we're getting a great price on it. Not only are they going to have a mobile kitchen, and we're even going to have tables with wait staff. So and I was also told that you could order ahead while you're golfing and pick up your order when you hit the 9th before you go on to the 10th. That's great. It's also an event space, and we can have events there up to 300 people. And this is just temporary till we actually have the RFP and come up with something else. So we're looking at having this place be closed for a year, which if you're up there at all, you see the hockey traffic, it's huge. And then you see the golfing traffic, tons of people using the Park Pub. Not only those people, but every day you see people going for lunch to the Park Pub, and it's groups of seniors using the Park Pub. So I couldn't be any more excited with this plan, and I can't wait to see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Casey. Anyone else have a
Council
comment?
President,
Councilmember McLaren,
is there someone who would be able to answer some questions?
hopefully.
Hey again, council members. So it does just so happen that we have Siemens and Brad Stevens here. No, unfortunately, Brad did not bring any peanut butter and jelly wings, but that's still okay. So hopefully between the group here, we can address any questions you may have.
Okay. Well, my first question is, I understand that we were already under an agreement with Siemens because of the study that was done but at what point does that turn into, like, this isn't something that an RFP wouldn't have had to go out for when we're purchasing something for such a large amount of money?
Yeah, so that's a great question, council member. So actually what we're operating under is the existing energy performance contract that the city does have. Also referred to as a performance contract agreement as well under Article 9. Just to give some examples, sorry. The city is on its 6th amendment of that contract. This has helped us with things like the Knickerbocker Ice Rink, the LED light program, a garage over at DPW. There's a couple other things. So just like some other master service agreements, although this does have an energy performance element to it, which these fellows here would be able to explain more. That is what we operate under, that existing contract. Those amendments, just like this PDA, will be brought before the council. So when we have a little bit more of the full picture of the work that we're going to do at Fur Park, including the new facility and the new playground, now we're discussing about the tennis courts as well. The council will be involved in all of that, as well as the community with community engagement. But those are further amendments that would be before the council as well. So Siemens actually handles that procurement under the existing EPC that we have with them.
Okay, thank you. I'm also, convinced me that a big windstorm isn't going to come blow this whole thing away.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that that's not going to happen?
I mean, so this is just and again, I can have them answer this, but it is a hard-sided tent. So we actually are referring to it as a temporary structure. Wind is not going to touch this type of structure. It's not the typical tent that you think, that gets popped up for 100 people outside with open sides. It's hard-sided. It's very, stable into the ground, possibly even how does it get fixed into the ground? Cemented, possibly? Yeah.
The tent part of it is. Sorry.
That's okay.
The tent, it looks like a tent. Hi, I'm Jim Rossi. I work with the Siemens folks. So we had the tent for 15 years. And I just happen to know what's available. So but it does not the peak part of it is not structural, that's decorative. The actual structure is an aluminum frame that's solid, and it has panels that are plexiglass that can be added or subtracted, but that aluminum frame stays up and it's structural. So it can withstand a lot. And it could be heated, it could be air conditioned. For the use for this facility, it'll be mostly open air, but during the shoulder months in the spring and fall, the panels can go up and it can be heated if there's an event where it might be in October and it might be cold. So
I lost my train of thought. So the cooking won't be done under the tent. The cooking will be done, or will it be?
So the cooking will be done almost right outside of the tent. That's where we need the kitchen trailer. There'll also
Okay.
be a secure cottage, if you will, that will secure things that have to be, like the alcohol, other materials, places to set up dishware, things like that.
And the merchandise for the pro shop, that kind of,
So that will also be the pro shop will be in a temporary space right down there as well, because, you know, as we all know, the existing pro shop entry, the existing entry into Park Pub, really not accessible as it is. So if we have construction gearing up where we have to have a controlled area while the construction begins, we don't want folks going in and out of the pro shop up there too. It's better that it's all contained. We'll, make sure that our golf courts are secured and fencing as well down there. So this way, everybody really can have a, one-stop shop area to go. Now, another thing, just to go a little further, is that, this is really a temporary into a permanent solution. So yes, part of this is temporary, although the hard structured tent will stay, as long as it lasts for us. This provides a whole nother opportunity, not just for an amenity for our public, but for a revenue source. We have a lot of tournaments up there. Some folks that go up to the Park Pub could tell you that, they may show up for a sandwich. There's a tournament going on. Well, now maybe we can separate that to maximize the use. Maybe we have a youth organization that's going to be in the community room in the new restaurant, and we can have the rowdy golfers in another I'm talking to you, council member Casey. We can have them over in the temporary structure. It also provides and opens up another opportunity again to repair those tennis courts that we've all talked about. And that's quite frankly an underutilized green space. It'd be really nice if folks could, be eating, walk out there. I'm sure there's all other opportunities that we could, realize.
so it's not going to be located directly on the current tennis courts, or it will be?
It will be. So what the plan will be is that this temporary structure will be located directly on the tennis courts. And that what we'd like to see, again, the council will be part of this, is that in the future, part of our future plan of reimagining the Fair Park is that, we do over tennis courts in another section of that grassy area
Okay.
to really, really fulfill, if we're going to redo the 90% of the park, that's really one of the last parcels. As much as we'd all love to have access to Acadia, but I don't want to tell you what that price is.
So it's the city's workforce that will pull up the ground where the tennis courts are and pave the parking lot and is that all
So
included in?
part of this project development agreement is taking up the fencing and some of the areas with the tennis courts. The city will also, we will help when it comes to some utilities. So there's some stuff that the city's doing. There's some stuff that is a part of this. But yes, the fencing has to be ripped up over there, to make room for what will be a more temporary or, a flooring that goes under a hard surface tent. that
So
gets
we
put
won't
down.
need to store this structure. It's just going to stay there.
Correct.
until
It will
it's-
minus the siding. Those are the pieces that we would
that get
take down,
removed.
like Jim said, in those winter, months.
Okay. And so, again, I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. How do we know that $650,000 is a good deal for a structure that's 15 years old?
So the $650, that is not just encompassing the tent. This is, and you'll see in the schedule that's before you in the backup of the legislation. This is everything that we've mentioned so far. So it's preparing the site. It's the tent, it's the kitchen, which by the way, that kitchen trailer as well as something that we'll be able to use that we could put out on the back nine. Again, it provides another opportunity. The temporary space for the pro shop, there's restaurants, there's sanitation elements to that. There is clearing the surface to prepare for it. So in consultation with Siemens, we felt that amount was at least enough that would, get us to where we need to be. If there is a leftover in that amount, that will go into the project as we move forward as well. But we just wanted to make sure, this is another project. This is even a faster moving project than we all saw with Knickerbocker Ice Rink, which, like Councilman Casey said, was tremendous how we were able to get that done in the time frame we had. Well, this is an even tighter timeline. I can literally hear Brad Stevens in my head right now. You're giving me a week to do a restaurant, but he'll get it done.
So when do you expect this to be operational?
So we are shooting for the typical opening of our golf course, which is usually weather dependent. But so middle April or so, whenever the golf course is opening, that's our goal to get this open as well. So
Wow.
it's ambitious.
Council President.
Councilmember Sorrento.
What's gonna happen with the tent when everything's all complete? Is the city gonna sell the tent or?
We'll maintain ownership of it. So so the tent, you can look at that. And that's why we keep, yes, although it's temporary for what we all
Yeah.
refer to as the Park Pub. The structure itself will stay. We'll be able to utilize that. Again, there's other municipalities around us. A great example would be Saratoga and Congress Park. They have the Canfield Casino. That's a city-owned property that different vendors come in to rent for weddings, events, etc. This hard-sided tent can provide the same opportunity. So no, we'll maintain ownership of all the equipment and structures and trailers that we are purchasing. All that stuff we'll maintain to own. Yes, which also, again, if you started to look out what it would cost to rent these items over the next, year or so, it's,
Yeah.
it definitely, it makes financial sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Council President.
Councilmember Brosnan.
It says Siemens will supply a kitchen trailer with utilities and 2 unisex fully equipped bathrooms that excludes utilities and a waste tank. What's the plan of using 2 facilities for restrooms that have no capabilities of being restrooms?
So our city engineer, Russ Reeves, has been involved in this project as well and feels that we have an ability for utility options that actually tie into the old Acadia building. So those are things that the city are going to evaluate to do. So no, we won't be leaving temporary restrooms without a place for all the waste to go.
Is that cost built into the $650,000? Is that going to be an additional cost to tie those?
Well, so
provided?
it's a little exactly tied into there is that when the city performs work, obviously we are, it's our workers. That's just your regular labor cost. If we do have to purchase some type of a tank or anything like that, that may be something separate outside of the 650. Again, this is a very fluid planning process. We just want to do everything we can to make sure that, we're open on time and keep providing this public amenity that everybody so enjoys.
So with the kitchen trailer, it's supplying the utilities. It's like electric, water, all of that. Where are you getting the water for the kitchen trailer?
So again, that's where we're going to there is the ability to tie into the Acadia building. So we would have our own staff running those utilities to these temporary areas. That's the game plan as of right now.
It's also got its own tanks, trailer.
Brad said he's a cooker, not a talker, but, so Brad just informed me too that in the kitchen element, that's a self-contained, there is self-contained tanks in that. So that would solve that problem. But with a combination of what existingly comes with the equipment and our own utilities, that's what we're looking to do to provide what we need.
You're looking to tie the kitchen trailers electric into the Arcadia building electric, or is it going to be running off generators? How are you supplying the utilities?
So I believe that we're supplying the utilities off of the Acadia building.
Have we built that cost into the 650,000, or are we just gonna hope on that one?
So that is something that those utilities may not be exactly baked into that 650, but that is something that we can use, again, our own city staff for, that we have equipment for. It's not like we're going to, we don't have temporary trailers existing on, that's why we have to purchase those. But utility work, just like we do at our parks and various other things we did at the Knickerbocker, we did use our own utility crews for certain sections of that. That is not a really high cost driving factor.
Running a service from a building to a new building would probably cost a significant amount of money. How far, what's the distance between?
I don't have that answer off the top of my head, but I can get it to you.
The electric is very close to the site.
Okay.
That's not.
Yeah, so I apologize. The electric is actually much closer to the site.
So are we just tying into a GFI outside of the building then? Running lead cords?
You are not speaking my language anymore, Councilman Brosnan.
I feel like I haven't been. I'm looking for somebody with maybe the electrical knowledge.
Okay, Tom Garrett, Siemens, electrical and mechanical engineer. One, working with Russ Reeves on Monday, we looked at the site. Obviously, we haven't been able to this has been what you might call done rather rapidly to serve the city. The point of this is there's utilities in the very close there. We can run temporaries and leave it temporary if that's what is decided by the city, by Russ Reeves would move forward. But you're talking 10, 20 feet in some of the areas. And if we run, you can run the capacity cords if you need to distance without much expense. So any temporary lines are supplied by us internally in our project. All right. If I got to run a water line, a couple 100 feet, gee, let me see, a garden hose isn't that expensive. So I'm not trying to be facetious, but seriously, our job is to make it work and we'll get that done. But working with Mr. Reeves, who is a great engineer, worked with him a lot of years, he wants to look at making this from a temporary to a potentially long-term site because we ran revenues on this through looking at outside utilization that could be bringing, you mind if I say, we're talking potential revenues approaching $200,000 a year that this can do separate from what the pub and the facility would do. So that's something that was driven by the team moving forward. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
That is a very dark parking lot and corner of that area. Are there plans for streetlights?
We can definitely look into lighting, even again, if it's temporary. We want to make sure that it's well lit, of course. Yeah, so any temporary lighting, that we ultimately end up getting. And again, like I keep saying, this is a stopgap plan to make sure that we're still providing the amenity that everybody is used to, while also looking towards the future for, what really could be and what the potential is there for it could be. But yes, we definitely don't want people walking around in a dark parking lot.
Thank you.
Councilmember Casey.
I just want to say, as far as I can't speak to the electric, but as far as the water and sewer, I worked for the city for many years and I've seen utilities at work. They regularly run sewer lines and they regularly run water lines. I don't think that's anything they would even consider an issue. They do some very good work, and I can't speak to the electric, but I know it'd be no problem having sewer and water run by the city in-house.
Agreed.
Any other comments?
Council President.
Councilmember Vera.
I apologize if this has already been answered, but where are we getting $650,000 from?
So that is coming out of the appropriation that you all made out of ARPA funds towards the Fair Park project.
Which portion?
That would come out of the portion dedicated to the new facility.
Dedicated to Park Pub?
Yes.
So the 2 million that was
facility.
allocated to Park Pub would be left with 1.4 million, 1.35 million?
If the whole 650 is spent, yes.
Has any more investigation been done on Park Pub?
Investigation.
Are we confident 1.35 million will allow us to spend the next year redoing it and have it ready to open next year?
Well,
That's obviously not going to be a full replacement of that building. We're talking now
yeah, so that's what I-
partial gut renovation, right?
Yep. So as this plan develops too, and like I've said to some council members, you know, this could ultimately end up resulting in coming back to the council, keeping them in the loop as this plan develops further. And if to realize the further goal, it could require, you know, more funding. And of course, that's something that we'd be bringing to the council.
Okay. The lease agreement that was extended, is that under the same terms?
Yes,
So $1,500 a month?
correct.
The facility will seat how many? 225?
Yes, I believe so, roughly two.
Inside, and then there's seating outdoors.
Okay. I saw in Appendix B, I think everyone touched on the exclusions from the contract. But I also see a line item that says a buyout of Park Pub equipment. Could you elaborate on that?
So the, you know, still technically existing proprietor, Mark, that has equipment that he has purchased, we could actually purchase at a very discounted rate, all different things again, from dishwasher to silverware that, you know, we can purchase and at a lower rate, still very good equipment. Again, Brad, you know, seeing that he was involved in the Park Pub in its earlier days for many years, even outside of him owning, you know, many restaurants, still to this day, you know, in consultation with him, that we feel that this is definitely what we can end up purchasing for materials that are right there and move them down is beneficial.
Do we have an estimate on how much of the 650,000 that would be?
I think that we've been working off of a number of roughly 30,000. That's not solid yet, because we have to go through, get the full inventory of it. But so far, everything we've looked at, we feel roughly that, you know, could be a reasonable amount to purchase this stuff. Again, that's why you're looking at a, you know, a project development agreement instead of the full-on amendment, because there are things here that are still fluid and getting worked out.
So then there's no projected revenue from this for the first year. The 200,000 number I just heard, that's future
That would be-
revenue. The new Park Pub, a renovated Park Pub is open, and we're planning on, I mean,
Correct. Yeah. So that's future projected revenue. And just as since you referenced the existing lease amount, you know, you will most certainly not see that be the amount for the future proprietor once the RFP comes out. There's various ways that we can increase the revenue, not even, you know, because we're getting a new facility, but we can take a different strategy with the new restaurant and community room, et cetera. There's a lot of opportunity there when it comes to it. But yes.
but I guess what I'm struggling with is how we're purchasing a 15-year-old repurposed a tent. We're buying some old equipment, and we're kind of doing like a temporary setup here. How is that going to generate more revenue than, you know, like the Nick Arena that we just spent 2.5 million on?
Yeah. So, I mean, a couple of things. One, like we just said, we're not saying that currently that it's going to generate $200,000. That's a future plan.
I understand.
Like was just
Yep,
said.
right.
So, also, like we've also acknowledged just with the Knickerbocker Ice Rink, we look towards revenue when it comes to our public facilities and parks, of course, any way we can. Spear Park is a rare example that we do have revenue opportunity. That being said, we're committed to offering top amenities to our public. That's what parks are for. But no, I mean, just like we previously answered, there is not a model with the current, you know, temporary solution here to get $200,000. And that's not what was said. That is an estimate of what the future could potentially hold, and which could justify spending more money to, you know, really redo the facility, et cetera.
So then what we're really considering this evening is $650,000 for 1 year of a restaurant.
No, you're considering 650,000 to include some development for a space that will end up staying there. This hard-sided tent structure, although the nature of that, the way it's going to be operated is temporary, that will stay. The city will own that. The city will own these other portable restrooms, all things that could end up staying there. And that could also become almost a whole nother offering that we have for, like we said, weddings, events, golf tournaments. So
So again,
all
that's the
that stuff
future
will
revenue
stay.
that you're talking about would be these temporary structures remain there and we rent them out in the future.
Correct.
Okay, right.
Yes, that's what I said.
But
future
you're
revenue.
not committing to $200,000 a year in revenue. You'd have to do some additional planning is what you're saying.
Of course,
Okay.
yes, and there'll be other actions that we come before the council for.
I don't have any
Okay,
questions.
thank you. Any other comments, questions from council members? Thank you, gentlemen. for
Thank
your-
you, council.
There are no other discussion. We'll bring this to a vote. All in favor?
I,
Opposed?
No.
Nay.
No.
Resolution is adopted 4-3. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll take a few moments to restructure. We hope we'll find some seats for people who are standing in the back.
Real quick, or just quick, right?
And yeah, maybe we could have some help moving the table.
I'll get used to it.
Yeah, okay.
And then you're speaking.
We don't need
No.
the table. So if we could move the table and Maria, are there any other chairs, any place at all?
Wow.
We have. I'll probably keep myself.
Gotta save it.
What's that?
Yes, yes. And he's still in my mouth.
Now I gotta try one.
yeah,
Now I've gotta try one.
well, I buy stuff from this place called Marty. And it's in Texas and they get all sorts of different goods. Marty, M-A-R-T-I-E. It's a word that they contrived from being smart. And, like a Smarty, and it's a mark. And so you can buy all these things at very reasonable prices. And so I bought a whole box full of these and then my wife tells me tonight, as I had already planned to give these out, Bill, I really like those things. Now you tell me, no. So now, so that's all right. So they are good.
So what's? No, just put it right here. Well, here, why don't you give me your phone? I think Karen could get it out. Figure it out.
No, don't drop it. Yes.
We're gonna shut this up. Okay, hearing this now. I got it right on. Oh, you want like that?
Oh, great. I have the.
Yeah, get Katie in there. There you go. Now we're going.
Perfect. Wow,
Is that what you want?
I don't want it at all. It wasn't my idea.
I tried to recruit Ken, he was like, no.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Let's get Ryan here or let's not.
Well, we'll be here till midnight with a good cause.
Oh, I love it.
Can we roll in some,
Let's go up to the 9th floor and get some.
They don't put they don't just put that up on their. Okay. You don't have.
That's why he's gone. He's pulled him over.
I know you want to get it. I would give it a.
you took away my.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm writing down and then I was just started.
Oh,
We're doing.
yeah, but I literally had to have this conversation.
Tell Ryan, we need to.
Well, that's. I'm just gonna come right in and know it. And she's not.
Yeah, we gotta get this moving along.
Right.
Oh,
Good evening, everyone. I get to use my gavel for once here. Thank you for all coming. It's a tremendous crowd. I wish we had more chairs, but I will try to speed through my address. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, good evening, and thank you all for attending this evening's meeting and legislative address. Your presence here tonight shows there's truly a strong interest from the public in what's happening in our city. I'd like to acknowledge some of the public officials who are here, and this is going to really get me in trouble, I know, but I will do my best. Representing Governor Hochul, we have Dan Wren. From the Rensselaer County Legislature, we have legislators Galuski, Weaver, and Zaluski. I believe is Fleming. I'm sorry, Mark, I apologize. I knew I would get in trouble. The mayor is here, I think, somewhere in the hallway. Our deputy mayor is probably also out in the hallway. I want to acknowledge my colleagues, Councilmember Keo, Brosnan, McLaren, Vera, Soriento, and Casey. We are a team, and it's great to be here together tonight. The legislative address is the annual update delivered to the Troy community by the council's president, outlining legislative priorities for the coming year and how we can find ways to work together and with the administration to make Troy a better place to live, work, and raise a family. This is my second address as your council president, and I remain humbled to serve our city with my fellow council colleagues here. There were several positive developments for the Collar City in 2024, including many that were top priorities identified in last year's legislative address. In the last 12 months, the City Council approved the contract to construct a new firehouse in our Lansingburg neighborhood, successfully pushed to secure state funding through Governor Hochul's New York Swims program for a new swimming pool for Lansingburg and North Central, authorized the construction of a new swimming pool in Knickerbocker Park, voted to accept federal funds to renovate and reopen the Knickerbocker Ice Arena, secured a pro-housing community designation from New York State, authorized funds for the repair of roads in neighborhoods across the city, and approved a variety of neighborhood improvement projects throughout our city. These are not just steps for the council to take that will directly benefit our residents, but also part of our core mission as Troy's legislative representatives. I want to thank and acknowledge all my colleagues for their desire to serve Troy. We don't always agree on issues facing our community, but I am committed to find common ground where possible to move our city forward in the right direction. While it is important to celebrate our successes, we also must recognize where we fall short. As I've said many times before, our residents deserve transparency and honesty from their elected leaders, and we must work to ensure they stay informed about what's happening at City Hall. The city's finances remain the most pressing issue for the City Council in 2025. There continue to be serious issues involving the city's finances, including questions about the budget, missing quarterly reports, insufficient money in the city's contingency fund, inaccurate figures, and overdue audits of the city's finances. We also continue to see challenges with meeting our financial obligations. $184,000 in rent charges went unpaid for 2024. $84,000 in overdue rent for 2025 was recently just paid late. And an interest payment of $241,600 in debt issued to fund public improvement projects was also paid late. Meanwhile, the city continues to rely on outside financial consultants to run day-to-day operations for our finance department. Since January 2024, more than $300,000 has been spent on outside consultants. While the council confirmed the administration's new full-time city controller last month in a bipartisan vote, I might add, these consultants are expected to continue working for the administration through the end of 2025. While the final cost is unknown, it could easily exceed $500,000. For context, this total equates to a 2% tax increase in 2026. Of great concern is the city's contingency fund. Rather than using it for unanticipated expenses as the city's rainy day fund, it was used this year to hide funding for the 911 contract with the county. After tonight, our contingency fund will contain just $480,000 following the transfer of more than the $1 million to pay for our contract with Rensselaer County to provide 911 emergency dispatch services. With a new labor contract with our police captains and other routine expenses, this fund will have less than $300,000 ahead of labor contract negotiations with our other employee unions. With national economic uncertainty spreading due to ongoing trade conflicts and the implementation of tariffs on America's largest trading partners in North America, I'm urging the administration to immediately begin developing contingency plans to address potential shortfalls in sales tax and other revenues. These are serious times, and we need a serious approach to weather the potential storms ahead. We can't put our heads in the sand and not be prepared. It's clear we need greater transparency through direct action by the City Council. Next month, the Democratic Caucus will advance legislation to require monthly financial reports from the administration. Other communities like Albany provide financial updates on a monthly basis, and Troy should follow suit. We also are committing to call department heads into future Finance Committee meetings. This will be a good, productive way to encourage greater coordination between the administration and City Council and aid in transparency efforts that will reassure the public. We will also advance legislation to expand our open meetings option to include remote participation by council members and the public. This will encourage more public engagement for those unable to attend in person at City Hall. Young parents in need of childcare, senior citizens with mobility issues, or those without transportation should all have the ability to communicate their opinion in real time. The council must be more than a rubber stamp for the administration, and I am hopeful the council can come together more often on common sense proposals like these. One example of our successful independence and collaboration was the council's effort to earmark ARPA funds for the Freer Park Playground. That bipartisan cooperation is a promising sign and one I so hope we can duplicate going forward. The planned modernization to the city's IT, payroll, and accounting systems is a much-needed effort to address the city's ability to effectively oversee Troy's budgets, spending, and revenues. However, we need to be honest with residents that this work comes at considerable but necessary expense. Most importantly, these investments should be prioritized over less critical projects, such as the purchase of a new city hall building. Next, I want to address the issue of widespread vacancies across all departments. Stabilizing the city's workforce must be prioritized in 2025. It's been no secret that the city has been struggling to retain staff in key positions across every department. Record vacancies force staff to do more with less and for less money, and it ultimately impacts services to our residents. Let me be clear, I support increasing base salaries for our unionized workforce. Competitive wages will ensure they can do their jobs with respect and dignity. In doing so, we must balance our budgets to account for new union contracts and prioritize this over unnecessary spending, like buying a new city hall. That means making sure our contingency fund has sufficient money to ensure raises can be paid for. Moving forward, our budget should account for annual bills and keep the contingency fund for unforeseen expenses. I'd like to turn to our focus to drinking water and public health. The replacement of lead lines is critical to the future of our city. The mayor and the entire city council agree. Replacement of lead service lines must happen faster. According to our Public Utilities Department, the inventory of lead lines only increased 6% in 2024. Of the 12,500 water service lines in the city, the status of approximately 5,500 lines are still unknown. I urge any residents listening tonight to visit troyny.gov/lead and follow the simple instructions to check the water line coming into their home. If you're a landlord, please take steps to verify the status of properties you own or manage. Completing only 300 replacements in the previous 14 months is far below where we need to be. The mayor set an ambitious goal of nearly 1,000 lead pipe replacements for 2025, and I hope this effort is successful for the health of Troy families and residents. Key to this will be the recent opinion sought by the City Council from the State Controller that confirms our ability to bond for replacement of residential lead service lines in Troy at no direct cost to taxpayers. And I extend my thanks to Comptroller DiNapoli and our state officials, including Assemblyman McDonald, who sends his regrets for his inability to be here tonight, but for his extreme and welcome assistance and guidance throughout this long and complex process. We also continue to monitor the status of legislation advanced by congressional Republicans to roll back a landmark rule by the Environmental Protection Agency under former President Biden that lowers lead limits in drinking water and strengthens requirements to replace lead pipes in communities across the nation. Tonight, the council will vote to approve a resolution opposing any attempts by Congress to eliminate this rule. Let the council speak with one voice tonight to reject scaling back common sense protections against lead in drinking water. Next, I want to highlight our city's recreational assets and outdoor spaces. Investing in our pools, parks, and other recreational facilities strengthens quality of life in Troy's neighborhoods. Having places to get outside and get together with friends and family is important for physical and mental health. Troy is very fortunate to have so many parks and green spaces for residents to visit and enjoy. That's why I'm pleased the administration and council will continue the work announced by the previous administration to invest in Kinloch Park, Prospect Park, and Knickerbocker Park. Seeing a Republican continue the work of a Democratic administration is a positive sign for what Troy can achieve if we set aside partisan differences and focus on projects that benefit all of us. Last year, I emphasized the importance of building a new swimming pool to serve North Central and Lansingburg families. We urged the administration to submit an application to Governor Hochul's New York Swims program, which resulted in a $5.8 million grant awarded to Troy for this project. I'm thrilled the governor has recognized the need for access to swimming opportunities in our city. While I'm pleased construction bids have finally been awarded, we must prioritize this project over unnecessary spending, like building a new city hall. I urge the mayor to work collaboratively with the Knickerbocker Park Association board to ensure this project can move forward without unnecessary conflict. As noted earlier, my Democratic colleagues and I were supportive of reopening the Knickerbocker Ice Arena. In fact, the entire council voted to accept $2 million in federal funds provided to Rensselaer County through President Biden's ARPA program, something that was critical to make this project possible. The rink has the potential to provide important recreational opportunities for Troy families and children, and we encourage everyone to attend open skate programs where available in the schedule. However, we continue to feel the contract between the city and the third-party organization to operate the rink was not a fair deal for taxpayers. The agreement gives away prime ice time at a fraction of the going rate of similar facilities. This could have been a much more lucrative deal for our community that would have brought in more revenue to support more staff and greater programming for Troy youth. The council should always prioritize getting the best deal for taxpayers, and I will continue to scrutinize for the, let me go back again. The council should always prioritize getting the best deal for taxpayers and never serve as a rubber stamp for the administration. My Democratic colleagues and I will continue to scrutinize future contracts and hope we can restore a balance of power between the city council and administration in cooperation with our Republican colleagues. Strengthening our city's aging water and sewer infrastructure should be a top priority for 2025. Despite issuing an emergency declaration to address critical water infrastructure at the Eddy's Lane pump station, these repairs remain incomplete more than a year later. At the time, we questioned the nature of the emergency and were chastised by the administration for asking questions about the work. The Eddy's Lane project is being handled in a way where the costs and extent of the work are being withheld from the council because the council is not approving contracts. Complicating matters is that we have no full-time city engineer to oversee similar critical projects, forcing us to rely on outside contractors at much higher costs. This is part of our larger concerns about the lack of transparency and the lack of fiscal oversight. We also must continue investing in sewer infrastructure to protect the Hudson River, as the federal government appears set to deprioritize environmental protections. Municipalities like Troy should continue to step up to improve water quality and support future waterfront access and recreational opportunities that take advantage of Troy's most valuable natural asset. Again, investments in critical water and sewer infrastructure should be prioritized over the purchase of a city hall. Now, I'd like to talk a little trash. Don't worry. I'm talking about garbage. Particularly garbage collection and the hardworking staff who take care of this critical job. We must address the growing costs associated with solid waste management for Troy. A glaring omission in the State of the City address was the growing costs associated with garbage and recycling collection for local municipalities. Troy's solid waste fee was previously targeted for elimination by the mayor, but has been extended another year. While it's clear this fee is not popular with residents, we must acknowledge that costs for solid waste management will continue to grow in the coming years. The only way to reduce costs is to reduce the amount of garbage we generate and confront the impact of single-use plastics and other products on our budgets and the environment. The departure of our two-person recycling coordinator team last year was a major step backward for the city. These staff members were responsible for coordinating waste diversion efforts, expansion of various recycling programs, and the rollout of a citywide composting pilot program. Unfortunately, these positions have been vacant for over 8 months. I understand the mayor is attempting to hire for these roles, something that I appreciate. These two critical positions must be prioritized and filled immediately so we can return our focus to reducing costs and addressing Troy's relationship with trash. Regardless of income, everyone deserves access to housing opportunities in Troy. After the mayor advanced the Council Democratic Caucus request to declare Troy a pro-housing community, there has been little progress to make housing more affordable in our community. We must take real, concrete steps toward addressing housing to meet the needs of Troy families in 2025, starting with the creation of a housing task force that was previously advanced by the Democratic majority, but was blocked. Advancing the goals of affordable housing and strong neighborhoods in Troy must come through collaboration between the mayor and the council. The dismantling of the Planning Commission and replacement with a planning board consisting of the mayor's handpicked political allies was a step backward and only created more public distrust of our institutions and faith in how City Hall operates. As the governor continues to pursue a pro-housing agenda, Troy is strongly positioned to take advantage of state funds to make our community a more affordable place to live, work, and raise a family. Let's hit the reset button and take a fresh start on this critical issue. As we look forward, there are several items of unfinished business that merit attention. We are still awaiting the release of the fire study needed to inform our decisions regarding our fire and emergency services. RFPs to demolish and renovate the restaurant at Fair Park, as well as the restaurant vendor, are due, as is an RFP for lead line removal in 2025. RFPs for construction of the Lansingburg Firehouse are still to be released. And when will we address One Monument Square with specifics and public input? We have yet to confirm a corporation council following the departure of the previous one. The list goes on. Needless to say, there needs to be better management of these details and more planning to offer time for discussion and public engagement of our city projects. I'd like to conclude on the importance of bipartisan cooperation. After a year of challenges and setbacks relating to the budget and oversight of Troy's finances, the mayor reached out earlier this year to signal her willingness to take a new approach and rebuild her relationship with the entire city council. I offered to support new dialogue and encourage greater transparency from her team. There has been some bumps in the road since then, but I am committed to working in cooperation, not opposition, with the mayor on the critical issues impacting quality of life for Troy families, and hope the mayor will meet the entire council halfway on her agenda. It begins with mutual respect and better communication. I ended last year's remarks with Troy is stronger together. That's as appropriate tonight as it was a year ago. It begins right here. As elected officials, we must continue to communicate and cooperate, share ideas and information to better serve the residents of our city. Thank you all. Okay, now we're going to move on. Thank you. We'll move on with our agenda. We have need of the clerk to call our roll, but we'll move on from that. We're all here.
Want to do good news before that, and then we'll, have to wait for it, or just.
Yeah, let's do good news.
Okay.
That sounds good. We have some good news to celebrate tonight, and we'd like to invite all of the members of AOH to come forward. I'm short. I'll go in front. You're the official photographer? Good, good. Well, this evening we have the honor of celebrating a tremendous organization in our community, does great work, and is reaching some incredible milestones. And I'm going to turn the mic over to the singing councilman, Tom Casey.
Well, it is that time of year. I just want to say we haven't done one of these good news in quite a long time, but we thought this being March and the season for the Irish, so with St. Patrick's Day coming up, that we recognize the Troy AOH. There was many fraternal organizations in this country, and they're a very strong environment, but they've all fell into, to a certain extent, a decline. And that was true with the Troy AOH. But I feel a lot of these fraternal organizations are on the rebound. And there's no better example than the Troy division of the AOH. And I just want to point out something I thought was incredible that was pointed out to me, is that they're the fastest growing AOH division in the country. And they do such good work. And I'm not going to say much. We're doing a resolution for them tonight. I'm not going to sit here and read all the resolutions. Whereases, I should say, but we're going to give this to them. But I want to direct the microphone to PJ Higgett to talk about the good work that the Troy AOH does in our community.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
So the Troy Ancient Order of Hibernians was established in 1879. In the country, it was established in 1832, and it consists of Irish Catholics. Our organization, like Tom had stated, has grown a lot in the last year. We're the only division in Rensselaer County. We do a lot of good things in the county. We volunteer on the fourth Thursday of the month with the Sidewalk Warriors down on State Street. We've done fundraising. We do a halfway to St. Patrick's Day. We did one last year in September, and we raised over $1,600 for Hope 7, Joseph's House, Lansingburg Food Pantry, and help me out, what was the fourth one? St. Augustine's Food Pantry. So each one of them got $1,600 from our fundraiser, and we're gearing up. Troy has been made a sustaining member of the Albany St. Patrick's Day Parade. So Troy has their own division in the parade this year. We have 16 units in our division, Troy Firemen, Troy Police, different organizations throughout the county. So if you're not busy next Saturday, 2 o'clock, be over in Albany, and you can watch a bunch of good times and a bunch of happy people on St. Patrick's Day.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you. Did we get a picture of the whole group? Did we get that already? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much for coming tonight and keep up the good work. Thank you. Onward to St. Patrick's Day.
Just making sure we have spare batteries.
Maria, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Keel? Councilmember Brosnan?
Present.
Councilmember Spain McLaren?
Present.
Councilmember Vera?
Present.
Councilmember Soriento?
Here.
Councilmember Casey?
Here.
Council President Steele?
Present.
All are still present.
Very good. Thank you. At this point in our evening, we welcome anyone who wishes to speak on any agenda item, specifically an item on our agenda. If there's anyone who wishes to speak, please come forward and share your name and place of residence.
Hi, my name is Mark Speedy. I live at 512 6th Avenue. Don't worry, this is about what's on the agenda. I'm speaking in my personal capacity. I just want to say, first of all, I did see that that you're voting on approval for variance for the Leonard Hospital site for the construction of, several homes there. Specifically for seniors. I just want to say that I am supportive of this effort and I am glad to see that site being used for something. I would have preferred to have it been used for affordable housing as it was proposed to be years ago, or to have some portion of these dedicated to affordable, but I am always happy to see the housing stock in Troy increasing, especially for seniors. So thank you for that. I also just want to say in terms of the budget, I do find it concerning that we are further draining the contingency fund for emergency services without having additional plans left over for contingency. As the council president stated before, the fact that we have woefully little left in contingency to account for raises for union employees who are going to be undergoing contract negotiations soon is extremely concerning. And, we should be trying to actually uplift those workers. I'm increasingly concerned about the fact that our workers are going to be underpaid, understaffed, and overworked. And we really need to do something to make sure that these people who are providing so much for our city are getting their fair share. That's it. That's all I wanted to add at the start of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just so you're aware, that ordinance has actually been pulled from this evening's agenda regarding the former Leonard Hospital. We'll be seeing it again, I'm sure.
Good evening, Stephen Maples, on Second Street. Many things to talk about, many packed agenda, so I'm just going to hit on a couple quick things. Given that we don't really understand the exact nature of the budget for the golf course, and it's been estimated that we're going to spend about $2 million in public subsidies on the golf course, I don't know that it's particularly prudent to be looking to spend more money or diverting money into the proposal tonight. So I think if we move forward with this, it would be great to have that be conditional on the administration committing to setting up an enterprise fund so that we do have transparency about how the golf course is funded. The second thing I'm going to touch on, I would ask the council to reconsider the sale of 492 Second Avenue. I think it's very telling that the applicants that are from the neighborhood propose to keep that lot as a green space. It's telling us something that's needed and warranted in that space. We certainly do need more housing, but a single-family house is not really going to meet the needs of our crisis. And actually a single-family house, given the city's finances, in some ways, it's more of a burden than it is an asset. Finally, the resolution supporting Assemblymember McDonald's bill, the resolution talks about that it supports efforts to provide equitable and sustainable funding for municipal infrastructure and maintenance. But the bill actually does the opposite of that. So the bill will tie the inflation rate to the New York City area inflation rate. So that means, by definition, if communities that are not within that metro area are taking more than their fair share, by definition. So it's not equitable, and it's certainly not sustainable if we are not talking about how do we tackle the arterials in our communities to make them safer, to curb the traffic violence, to curb the social fracturing that it has caused in like the hillside communities, and the immense amount of pollution that has been and will continue to be emitted in our neighborhoods. So while I understand that we always need money to take care of roads, of course we do, but if we're not committing to making forward-looking changes, this is good money after bad. So I would actually encourage the administration to work with Assemblymember McDonald to find a more sustainable solution to a more equitable inflation rate, such as a statewide or a regional. And I would also call on the administration to commit to opposing new arterials, reducing the impacts of existing arterials through right sizing and traffic calming. If we can commit to those things, then I think that this is something that deserves support. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Does anyone else wish to speak on any agenda item?
Four minutes. Good evening, council. My name is Christian Grigroskos. I live at 488 Second Avenue in Lansingburg with my partner and two children. We own the property at 498 and 494 Second Avenue on the same street, which is adjacent to the vacant lot at 492 Second Ave, which the Finance Committee has recommended be awarded to Starlight Development, who for an equal bid of $100 is proposing building a single-family home that they will sell. Our proposal is to maintain it as green space. I urge you to change your mind after I provide some context on the situation and award the property to us. Your award to Starlight states their proposal as best recommended use of the property, which I can understand from a purely financial perspective. However, this is in a neighborhood where we have been intimately invested for the past decade, and I feel strongly that we as the neighbors should be given priority. 494 and 492 used to be two buildings that burned in a tragic fire 2 years ago. 494 was sold to us by the previous owner, who reached out on their own to give us priority since we were the neighbors. During this time, I discussed with the other neighbor at 490, the lot at 492, and he was okay with us acquiring it when the time came, as he was not interested in it. Fast forward to a few months ago when we got a letter from the city telling us that the lot was available and outlined the bidding process. We were informed by previous council members and old employees from planning that as neighbors, we would surely be given priority. So we were surprised to hear about the Finance Committee's decision. So we spoke with many of our neighbors all of which are opposed to the current decision, and many of them have submitted their objections in writing. We care about this neighborhood and have relationships with many of our neighbors who have been living here for decades. We're hoping you will consider the value of people such as my family who are active stewards of the neighborhood, and that this kind of community mindedness is worth more in the long run and adds to the quality of life in the city as a whole. This should be enough to help you change your mind, but I feel a strong need to mention some of the red flags on existing Starlight properties to further solidify our case, in hopes that the city might create a more robust accountability process to make sure that developers actually deliver on their promises before they are awarded more property. We are aware that Starlight owns multiple vacant lots that remain vacant and has at least one recently constructed single-family home at 562 3rd Avenue that does not fit the historic standards of the neighborhood and has some serious functional flaws. Then there's 705 3rd Avenue that has been vacant for a long time. And in a couple of years ago, an RV was abandoned on the lot. Then a houseless person moved into that RV and was living there for a while. And then the RV caught fire. Luckily, the person had time to get out of there. Of course, there's 1011 2nd Avenue, which a lot of you know about, has tons of community disapproval. These three issues or three cases that I just cited are just from me being active in the community. I didn't have to research any of this. So to conclude, I love this city. We love living here, and I want to make sure you understand I'm coming from a place of love and care. I know we live in a world where profit often comes before people, unfortunately, but I'm asking you as people in a position of power to at least delay the decision if you feel like you can't change your mind tonight. Please make the choice to listen to the neighbors and this neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to address the council on any agenda item?
Hello, my name is Jeannie Stigl. I live at 2258 Old 6th Avenue, and I support Christian and his statement. He's planted trees for me. He's really been a steward for me for talking about street trees, what would be the best thing to do. So I know that he would do a lot with that lot that is basically his property is so close to the line of where the 492 2nd Avenue is. So I would really urge you to reconsider or just put a pause on this property so that you could sort of have the finance committee investigate and sort of look at this situation again. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
How's it going? Don't do this a lot. Very uncomfortable. Hi, I'm Kate. I live on Tibbetts Ave. Do I need to give the exact address? Okay,
That's fine.
sick.
It's fine.
So I think this is the appropriate time to discuss the good cause for Troy, correct? No? Okay, I'll be back. Let's not-
Okay, we're dealing with just items on the agenda this evening. There'll be a chance later. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, we're going to move on then to our ordinances. Ordinance 6.
Ordinance 6. Ordinance amending the 2025 miscellaneous special revenue fund budget to accept grant funding from the Division of Criminal Justice Services for the purpose of gun-involved violence elimination. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Motion.
I'm also a sponsor of that. Thank
Okay.
you. I would be, entertain a motion from someone.
Second.
Councilmember McLaren, seconded by Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion on the ordinance? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 noes. Ordinance 6 passes.
Ordinance 7.
Ordinance 7. Ordinance authorizing sales of certain city-owned parcels of real property by the proposal sale application method. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Is there a reason why we're not acknowledging that I'm also?
Because I don't have my agenda with me, so we can just.
Okay, thank you.
Council President, can I just make a
curious.
motion for a brief recess?
Very brief.
Thank you.
Well, she can get that.
We're just taking a momentary recess so the clerk can find her agenda. Thank you for your patience.
I'm sorry. It's been a very long week.
I didn't want to buy new. So, and it had, it looked like the Spirit of 76.
Huh?
You know that one.
Yes.
So I really looked.
Okay.
These things successfully. And I deeply lost them.
Did they, why, what do you mean?
You know,
Are they still active?
something with something abrasive chemicals and, then I used to be absolute best primer, you know, and you're in the best primer, so that's really the kid, really. And then I put the best bare paint, but, I changed fan, light, shades, everything. So I put everything back together and she says, boy, those hinges, they just, and they're not, they're not. Yeah. Well, but now I got, but I ordered, yesterday I did what you know, start the screw.
I was gonna ask you.
Yeah, well, what I did was I just like, you don't want to. You know how it goes, the tool fits perfect on the door.
Yeah.
For the new hinge. So all I could do is I put the tool on, then I push it right where it's down, and bam, nail. So this doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And it's been bleeding for like a day. I got a senior center, this senior.
I gotta tell you how much it hurt.
Yeah.
Can I announce that I'm playing this? No.
Sorry.
I'm gonna get a glass of water.
No, thank you.
Let's go get some water.
That sounds good.
I could believe.
Sorry. I put all the agendas out and didn't keep one for myself. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Sorry.
No, certainly, you're all right.
Yeah, sorry.
It's my fault.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Apologies.
we're back and thank you to all for your patience. Clerk, where are we? We are.
Ordinance 7.
Ordinance 7.
Want me to reread it?
Sure.
Ordinance 7, ordinance authorizing sales of certain city-owned parcels of real property by the proposal sale application method. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Casey
Second.
cannot do that because
That was me.
that was you
Oh.
with his mouth full. That's why I didn't recognize. Councilmember Vera
I'll second.
with a second by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion on the resolution or the ordinance, excuse me.
Council President,
Councilmember Vera.
is Corporation Counsel available?
Corporation Counsel is available.
How you doing?
Is the mic on?
Yes.
I just have would it be possible to amend this on the floor to remove the property at 492 Second Avenue from this legislation?
That is possible.
Okay, if assuming the amendment were to pass, what would be the next steps? This would go out with the next set of property for the proposal process?
The council could direct what should happen with it next. I mean, do you want it to go back to the property review committee? Do you want it to be reconsidered? Do you want to reconsider it yourself as a council? You can do that. That's been done before.
Okay. I'll make a motion to amend ordinance 7 to remove 492 Second Avenue from the proposal and to refer it back to the property review committee.
I'll
Do
second.
we have a second? Councilmember McLaren seconds. Discussion on the amendment. Is everyone clear on the amendment?
Yep.
Any comments?
Council President Seal.
Councilmember Casey?
I'm not really sure how we got here. I am on the committee to look at these properties, and there's often for every, property, it might be 3 proposals. Usually 2 are for leaving a green space. And the reason why they're usually green space is because unfortunately there was a fire. Families were displaced and they become empty lots. And these houses are not always replaced. We constantly hear of the need for increased housing in the city. And like I said, even many in my district just sit there. And I've seen this many times over the years as in my role as a fire captain. The committee looks at these proposals. And on this one in particular, as with all of them, we were in complete agreement how to award the property. There was no there was no documentation to go along with it. We also addressed this at the finance meeting. Again, we heard nothing. Not a single word from everybody, and it passed unanimously. I didn't hear anything about any objection till I believe it was this afternoon. And it seemed like the floodwaters opened up, a huge group showed up for one property, and we hadn't heard a word about this till this afternoon. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. You think it would have heard a little earlier in the process, but I'm going to tell you, it was a thoughtful process. And we all agreed unanimously, it was going to build a house for a family or families. It was going to replace one that was burnt down. And it was going to go back on the tax rolls is not an empty lot. If we kept all the empty lots and awarded them all the proposals, every time a house burned down, there would be a garden next to it. There wouldn't be any new homes. All there'd be is a bunch of gardens around the city, because every property, we get at least 2 proposals to grow a garden. But, we do have to have homes, and we constantly talk about it. And we have housing inflation, and we have a need for homes. And it's a great idea to have gardens. But, when houses burn down, we need to rebuild so that we can have a place for families to live. And they're not going to live in a garden. And I think, like I said, it was a very thoughtful, we're always very thoughtful and, thorough with these recommendations. And we decided unanimously on 492 to award it to these people who are going to build a home.
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren.
So I'm not part of the review process, but I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleague. I mean, I agree that we need housing. We need to increase our housing stock in Troy, but we also need communities. We need neighborhoods. And it sounds like this is a very strong neighborhood with a lot of support for someone who wants to continue to be a steward, to provide some green space for his family. And I think the outpouring of support from people interested in having this lot remain green space, and their confidence that this family is going to continue the upkeep of it, I think that says a lot. So for me, it's kind of a balance. Yes, we need housing, but we also need strong neighborhoods and strong communities that kind of go to bat for each other. And so that for me, that was just a really nice thing to see.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will vote on the amendment first. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
The amendment is adopted 4-3. We'll be pulling that from the list of properties. Now we will vote on the amended ordinance.
I'm sorry, this goes right back to committee then?
It goes back to the review. committee.
Okay.
492.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so on the amended ordinance, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, ordinance 7 passes.
Ordinance 8?
Ordinance 8, ordinance amending the special grants fund budget. Council President Seal, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, ordinance 8 passes.
Ordinance 9.
Ordinance 9, ordinance amending the special grants fund budget. Council President Seal, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember Keel, second. Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos, ordinance 9 passes.
Ordinance 10.
Ordinance 10, ordinance amending the special grants fund budget. Council President Seal, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 10 passes.
Ordinance 11 has been withdrawn. Ordinance 12.
Ordinance 12, ordinance amending the 2025 Special Revenue Fund budget to accept and appropriate funds from the Rensselaer County Department of Health for the purpose of administering the lead rental registry program. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 12 passes.
Ordinance 13.
Ordinance 13, ordinance transferring funds within the 2025 general fund. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, a second.
Second.
Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 13 passes.
Ordinance 14.
Ordinance 14, ordinance amending the general fund, capital projects fund, and miscellaneous special grants fund budgets to appropriate funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren. Second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Ordinance 14 passes.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 11.
Resolution 11, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a memorandum of agreement to share household hazardous waste collection and disposal services with the county of Rensselaer and the town of Bethlehem. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren,
Second.
second by Councilmember Vera. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 11 passes.
Resolution 12.
Resolution 12, a resolution commemorating the service of the Ensign House by designating the portion of Fifth Avenue between 114th and 115th Streets as Ensign House Lane. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion?
Council President.
Councilmember Keel.
This family's house has been in the the family's been around in the Troy community in Lansingburg for many, many years. And well, the house itself has an allure in that it's as they say, haunted. It's kind of an interesting thing. They've rented it out as Airbnb. I saw, or Verbo, if anybody's familiar with the Verbo, it's just different than a Airbnb. $666 a night. It's been in films. It's been documented as being haunted. I've been to the house. There's a Ouija board in the as the doormat there. It's just rather interesting. So we're happy to commemorate and honor this family with the Enslin House, and hopefully Barbara Ann Enslin, who is the I guess the main ghost that resides, will be very happy with this proclamation.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
6 ayes, 1 no. Resolution 12 passes.
Resolution 13.
Resolution 13, resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into 2 agreements with Rensselaer County for provision of stop DWI enforcement and stop DWI high visibility engagement campaign police services. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember McLaren, second.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 13 passes.
Resolution 14.
Resolution 14, resolution commending the Troy Division of the Ancient Order of
Hibernians.
Hibernians for its service to the communities of Troy. Council President Seal, Councilmember Casey.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Councilmember Brosnan, seconded by Councilmember Keel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 14 passes.
Resolution 17 has been withdrawn. Resolution 18.
Resolution 18, resolution of lead agency pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, declaring that a proposed development known as the Little Italy Marketplace redevelopment project between Liberty and Washington Streets, tax map parcel 101.69-12-1 will not have significant adverse impacts on the environment. Council President Seal, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion.
Motion.
Councilmember Vero.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Soriento. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 18 passes.
Resolution 19.
Resolution 19, resolution urging preservation of federal rights on lead in drinking water and lead pipe replacement. Councilmember Vera, Councilmember Spain McLaren.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second
Second.
by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 19 passes.
Resolution 20.
Resolution 20, resolution appointing a commissioner of deeds for the city of Troy. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan, second.
Second.
Councilmember Vera. Discussion?
Council President,
Councilman Vera.
I just want to note, this is the amended version, right? That included Irene and Tom on there. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 20 passes.
Resolution 21.
Resolution 21, resolution proclaiming March 2025 as Women's History Month in the city of Troy. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, Councilmember Keel, Councilmember Spain McLaren, Councilmember Brosnan, Councilmember Casey is already on here, Councilmember Soriento, Councilmember Vera.
All of the above.
You can just say all use.
All yes.
Well, we're all sponsors, so technically we can't, no one can move. Oh,
Unanimous.
I'll take a voice vote. All in favor? Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 21 passes.
Resolution 22.
Resolution 22, resolution proclaiming March 2025 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the city of Troy. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey, everybody on the council.
All in
Sounds good.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 22 passes.
Resolution 23.
Resolution 23, resolution accepting the 2023 financial statement audit, single audit of federal expenditures, and single audit of New York State Department of Transportation expenditures as prepared by the Bonadio Group. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Brosnan,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember McLaren. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
7 ayes, 0 nos. Resolution 23 passes.
Resolution 24.
Resolution 24, resolution in support of Assembly Bill 4612, arterial maintenance reimbursement bill. Council President Steele, Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
We have a motion?
Did I say that right?
Arterial.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Councilmember Keel,
Second.
Councilmember Soriento seconds. Discussion?
Council President.
Councilmember McLaren?
In light of what we heard earlier about our, from Mr. Maples, about the fact that it would, is that something that we want to consider before? Oh, sorry. Is that something that we want to think about? Perhaps, tabling it until we look into that a little bit?
There's certainly, if you wish to make a motion to table,
Or could we ask administration to weigh in on it?
I think the mayor already did and didn't imply that that was an issue. So. I don't know. Is she in the room? Is the mayor in the room? Seamus, are you familiar with Assemblyman McDonald's bill?
Outside of what was said earlier.
Okay. Yeah,
A motion table.
Okay, second it.
okay. All in favor of tabling resolution 24?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Are those
It was,
I feel like I didn't hear 7 people.
Oh, you didn't.
Oh, I,
yeah.
Clear.
Oh,
yeah, I was thinking, I was just going through my mind.
I mean, okay.
John, it was John McDonald. But I was like, okay, we'll look at it, you know?
Well, we're only tabling it.
Yeah,
We're
I
not,
agree.
we're just getting more information.
Yeah, sure. I understand. Yep.
It's certainly not a statement of.
Oh, no, I know that.
Support. Or
I know
whatever,
that.
So. I'll do it again. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Resolution 25.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a project development agreement with Siemens Industry Incorporated for provision of temporary restaurant and pro shop facilities at Freer Park. Councilmember Casey at the request of the administration.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor or discussion?
Discussion?
Council President.
Yeah.
Oh.
Council member.
Is
President?
Siemens still in the room?
I know I'll be joined shortly with one of the representatives from Siemens, but maybe this would provide some clarity. There was about $50,000 or so accounted in that 650,000 for some ancillary costs. So although I do feel we will be perfectly fine handling everything that was discussed earlier with our own staff, that might provide some members with some clarity, but.
Yeah, so Shattree with Siemens. So we put this together, there's equipment we have to purchase. So we had to put budgetary numbers together. I can't go procure any of that. So I have to carry some contingency in for this process. We don't know if we have to expedite things. So there's contingency in there. And I'm very comfortable that says, once we go buy the equipment, there's going to be extra money that was left over that Seamus referenced previously. If there's a 10K fee or additional fees, we'll look to absorb them. We've worked with the city for 15 years on multiple projects. It's always gone very well. So hopefully that helps a little bit with your understanding.
My specific worry is Annex B is declaring the work that Siemens is going to do and contractually obligated to do. It excludes utilities in every phase. I was told it's going to cost about the 10,000 for the hookup for the main water.
Yeah, I think it's a could, right? We know yet.
Yeah, it could.
We haven't quoted it. So I think the answer is that in good faith, we would do our best to cover that if there is an overrun that comes from this utility, because maybe, like I said, I'm not sure how much it's going to cost at this point.
And then someone, the engineer for the city said, we're going to be tying into the 3-phase transformer and running a new service down to the temporary kitchen setup. And he was under the impression that Siemens was going to be paying for that too.
Okay.
Is that your understanding?
So we didn't get the explicit on what was required from Russ's side of the conversation. He hadn't provided that, but again, we'll look to cover this with the ancillary costs that we have covered for this. And we can be a little more transparent as we go through this process of what we're targeting, what's left over, so that you guys can have an understanding of where we are at this project. Because again, if I have to expedite product to get it in, we got 5 weeks to pull this together. So my concern really is if we don't get it done in 5 weeks, you guys won't be open. So that's a very, very big concern for Brad as well.
Yeah, I understand that. The concern for mine is we have 5 weeks to get this done. If we have to spend 10 grand on sewer and then find an additional money for an entire service, it would slow the process down. So that's why I was trying to ask those clarifying questions.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Council President Steele.
Councilmember Casey?
Like I said previously, I cannot speak to the electric, but I do speak about the ability and the things I've seen over the years with the Department of Public Utilities. I've seen them run water lines and I've seen them run more sewer lines than you could shake a stick at. I doubt that we would have to have some professional come in and do the work that I know the Department of Public Utilities could do without even a thought being put into it. I know if you said to Butch, hey, you got to run a water line, boom, it'd be run. You need a sewer line, boom. I don't think that's the cost. I can't speak to the electric. I know nothing about it. So that's not what I'm going to speak to. And that's a concern. I understand that, but I can't even speak to it. I know nothing about it. You're a professional, you would know. But I just have to say, it is really, we have an opportunity to keep something open there, and it's imperative. You have the hockey families, you have the golfers, you have the neighborhood people. The money we put into this golf course, okay, it's a jewel for the city, and to have an opportunity that we can keep something open there, something I fought for over and over, keep it open, please, till the wrecking ball hits, please. And he wouldn't do it. But now there's an opportunity that while the work is being done, we're going to have something open there. That is huge, huge for this whole facility. And it's not just for golfers. The Park Pub has never been just for golfers. And to know that, I've been in the structure they're going to put up, I've actually been in. I saw a wedding there. It was beautiful. I just think it's a really out of the box. I didn't even think about it. I thought we were going to have something just small on the lawn. This is a great idea. It's a great project. We can get it done quick and have something open. And it's going to stay open. You never know who might need a wedding in the future. Just saying, But I just think it's just a great opportunity for the city. I couldn't believe they put this together. It's a great thing. Let's keep something open there. But, Ryan, of course, you have concerns as we all do. We need answers and we need to be updated on the project. And Ryan, he's a union electrician. He has concerns. I think he should be able to call the administration and get the answers he wants. If he could call Siemens directly, that would be great to get everybody here the answers we might need to make sure that the project stays on budget and everything's paid for.
Just to clarify, I wasn't questioning the capability of the city workers.
Oh, no.
It was just the cost of material.
No, I was.
That's where the 10.
I didn't even think you said that. No.
Just want to clarify.
Council President.
Councilman Vera?
I don't have any doubt that Siemens can deliver the project for the price, and I'm not as concerned about whether or not utilities can be run to this. I'm sure the city workers can handle it. What I question is spending $650,000 and then some out of the line item that was set aside for Park Pub. It would seem that ultimately this is going to hamstring the city's ability to deliver on the promise of a well thought out and well planned renovation to the restaurant. What this seems like to me is we had an entire year to plan for this eventuality. We knew that this was going to happen, and we're doing this very last minute. And when you do things last minute like this, you leave things out, you forget things, you miss things, and you spend a lot more money to get this structure than we would have otherwise spent. Again, as I stated during the finance committee, I just don't think this is a good idea.
Thank you. Anyone else? Do we want to do a slow roll or a voice vote? Up to you. Doesn't matter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
No.
6 ayes.
No,
No.
no.
Who else said no? So far, 4 and 3.
4 through.
4 ayes, 3 noes. Resolution 25 passes.
At this point of the evening, we have another public forum. It is open to comments on any topic. If you are interested in speaking, please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, my name's Jude. I live on Fifth Avenue, and I'm here tonight in my capacity as a member of the Good Cause Troy campaign and Troy Democratic Socialists of America, and as a renter in Troy to talk about good cause eviction protections. Last month, we attempted to submit 1,800 signatures of registered Troy voters to the city clerk as part of the ballot initiative process outlined in state law. Unfortunately, the city clerk did not accept the petition. Corporation Counsel responded to our statement at the city council meeting that night with concerns about the legality of the process we're following. The document I've just shared with you is the result of the advice and guidance given to us by multiple attorneys regarding those statements made by Corporation Counsel. Corporation Counsel stated that good cause eviction would be ineligible for the city charter as it doesn't concern the plan of government for the city. However, state law is very clear on what is eligible for inclusion in the city charter, which includes laws concerning, quote, the health, safety, and welfare of persons or property within its boundaries, quote, whether or not these subjects relate to the property, affairs, or government of cities. It's clear to us that good cause eviction very much does relate to the health, safety, and welfare of Troy residents, and thus would be eligible to be entered into the city charter. Charter amendments to this process, quote, may be of any extent and may deal with any number of subjects. State law is very explicit on the wide-ranging nature of the ballot initiative process. Corporation Counsel also stated that the nature of good cause eviction requires it to be passed through action of the local legislative body. The ballot initiative process does pass through City Council. Once the petitions have been submitted, City Council will have 60 days to consider and pass the legislation without it having to go to the ballot at all. You have the power to pass good cause eviction and protect tenants in the city now. You do not have to wait until November. Most critically, though, is that state law mandates that when citizens are submitting ballot petitions for a charter amendment to the local legislative body, the city clerk is required to accept the petitions and transmit them to City Council, quote, whether or not he finds the petition sufficient. The city's refusal to accept the petitions on the basis of their supposed invalidity is an illegal violation of our rights as residents of Troy. The refusal is based on incorrect information, and it is the city's inaction that is preventing the consideration of good cause eviction by the local legislative body as outlined in state law. Tomorrow, we intend to bring the petitions again to the city clerk. Given the legal requirement of the clerk to accept the petitions and transmit them to City Council, we expect to be able to successfully submit them and move forward with this process. It's our sincerest hope that the City Council will pass the legislation as soon as possible. Every month good cause isn't passed, more families are displaced because their lease ends or because their rent is increased unsustainably. We all should have the right to safe, secure, affordable housing, and you have the power to guarantee it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill French, 433 River Street. I'm the CSEA Troy's Vice President. First, I'd like to thank the council and President Steele for considering the CSEA employees of the city of Troy without having a contract. So I'm here today to speak about, we're 3 months into this new year and the employees of the city of Troy do not have a contract yet. And as you heard many times mentioned here in these meetings, we're asked to do more with less. So I just want to remind everybody that the employees of the city of Troy, from planning and zoning to code enforcement, who takes and deals with multiple problems throughout the city, complaints, to the clerks at City Hall that deal with the public every day with smiles on their faces, to even the people in the back room who handle finances and all the paperwork, all of them doing more than one job. Then we go to DPW,
who keeps the streets clean and safe around here, traffic control, DPU, who keeps the water flowing, and facilities, who keeps all our buildings in pristine shape. So again, most of these people I mentioned doing more than one job for less money, and we'd like to keep the council and everybody on to know that city employees are looking for a contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Unfortunately, I only have one copy of each, so you'll have to make copies or pass them around. I can send links to the information as well. Hello, once again, my name is Mark Speedy. I live at 512 6th Avenue, and I am here representing Troy DSA and Good Cause Troy. As we continue to urge the council to pass legislation opting into Good Cause eviction in Troy, I want to outline the protections that Good Cause offers and why it is so important to the people in our city. First, Good Cause is first and foremost a law to empower tenants to defend their existing rights. As Councilmember Casey said to ABC 10 News already, tenants already have a lot of rights in New York. There's an extent to which that statement is true. New York state law entitles residents to safe habitation, heating in the winter, swift repairs if something breaks, and more. However, tenants are not currently empowered to actually take advantage of these rights. We have heard from countless tenants that they are afraid to ask their landlords to fix things because they know that if they're perceived as a quote unquote problem tenant, the landlord can choose not to renew their lease or cancel their month-to-month agreement at the drop of a hat. As a result, problems go unreported and a leaky ceiling can turn into a collapsed roof. This level of disrepair is costly to the landlord, it takes up city code enforcement resources, and is devastating to the tenant. Good Cause also protects tenants from unreasonable rent increases, which we've seen a shocking number of in recent years. The law would cap rent increases at 5% plus the current rate of inflation, or 10%, whichever is lower, with exceptions in place if the landlord can prove financial hardship, like recent repair costs. This is a relatively high cap compared to other states' laws and would protect tenants from price gouging while still allowing legitimate rent increases. Some have argued that Good Cause would put undue burden on small landlords, but we've heard from many Good Cause supporting landlords who recognize that this law wouldn't impact them at all. Good landlords recognize the value of a long-term tenant and want to offer lease renewals at reasonable rates. And landlords are still empowered to evict tenants with good cause, including reasons like non-payment, criminal activity, and repeated nuisance. Additionally, owner-occupants and landlords who only operate one unit are exempt. Other people have argued that this would slow development in the city. However, the bill also exempts all new developments for 30 years after construction. And one of the documents that I shared there, a recent University of Minnesota study on Good Cause legislation passed in cities across the country, found that passing Good Cause had no impact on the housing supply or new developments. Not only is this bill undeniably positive for the stability of renters in Troy, it is incredibly popular. The 1,800 plus signatures that we've collected represents more than 20% of the people who voted in the last municipal election. A recent survey also provided for you showed that 74% of Capital District residents, along with 88% of Democrats and 74% of Republicans, support passing Good Cause in their communities. Members of the council, each of you was elected to represent these constituents. I hope that you can hear their voices tonight and recognize the broad support of these necessary reforms that Good Cause can bring. Thank you.
Mark, would you please send the links to those articles to the council? Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Chanel. I live in Troy, 111 Monroe Street, Apartment 3. I've been there for a year. I've had to deal with issues that no renters should have to deal with. I have repeatedly asked my landlord to address these issues, but he rarely does so. Even when they present safety issues, I won't go into all of them, but here are the major ones that I feel are important. Several of my wall sockets, they just don't work. The wiring is messed up. My breaker trips often. I can't have the microwave on or the wash machine on where everything would just turn off. Code came to my apartment twice. Each time they told my landlord that he had to address the situation, especially about the electrical issues, but nothing's never been done. I have to use extension cords running across my apartment just to keep like flow of electricity in my apartment. Previous tenants moved in and out of the apartment on the first floor. Someone broke into the windows because it used to be a drug addict apartment on the first floor. There was broken glass outside that I had mentioned to the landlord before I moved in, and he said he was gonna take care of it, never did. And stayed there all summer. This past summer, I wasn't able to have friends or family come over because of the glass. I had to like go to their houses. There was also a major gas leak on the first floor. One day I was going to work and I felt really lightheaded and I had called the fire department. And if they didn't come, the whole block would have blew up because, like I said, he had tenants there. They had moved out a year prior and he never went to even check the breakers. So the whole time it was gas leaking. I was out of a toilet for 30 days. I had to use my neighbor next to me, his toilet. Can you imagine not having a working toilet in your house for an entire month? Would anyone in the city council stand for that? What would you do if your landlord said he is working on it? I asked my landlord to fix it, but he delayed it and said he didn't have enough money. It was an embarrassing month to say the least. My landlord doesn't shovel or saw the sidewalks in front of my house. I have slipped and fallen twice this winter. I had asked him, could we at least get a shovel or salt? And he keeps saying, call the mayor, complain to the mayor. It's the mayor's job. I kept asking him to salt, but he never did. I have elder neighbors around me, such as my friend, Mr. James, who stands next to me, who has also fallen and he's in his early 60s. So these are just a few of my experiences that I'm going through. Even though I have brought these issues to my landlord's attention over and over again, he does not feel the need to fix them. I'm afraid that if I take him to court and get these things fixed, he will not renew my lease out of spite. I hate moving. It's such a disruption to me and my children's life. I just wish I could just live in an apartment where I can demand that these kind of issues get fixed without fear of retaliation and know that the rent would be affordable year after year. Thousands of other renters in Troy are in my situation like mine. This is why we need good cause eviction protection. It doesn't cost the city anything. Many other cities have already adopted them. It just gives us renters protection from mistreatment, and it keeps communities together, and it keeps rents from rising out of control. I just hope you decide to opt in soon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Dear Council, my name is Lori Matrulis. Thank you for hearing me. I love Troy. It's beautiful and the people are interesting and resourceful. I live here and I moved here recently, about 2 years ago, and I want what's best for this community. I'm here to convey that good cause protections for tenants in Troy are critical and vital to happiness and sustaining a happy, viable population instead of growing into a ghost town. 65% of tenants are renters. From the short time I've lived in Troy, it's easy to say that after searching high and low for suitable rental, not too expensive and hopefully lovable, is very hard to find on the low, cost. And most of the apartments that I can afford are not taken care of. I've had to deal with a clogged gas stove burner, windows that either don't lock properly or close all the way, thus higher than average heating bills, no peephole or doorbell intercom, which you should have if you're a renter. Everybody should have that. No access to the utility box, overloaded breakers, tiles on the entrance stairs that are ripped and catch on your toes as you walk up, a toilet that often requires a second flush because the water doesn't fill it properly, an old bear claw tub with peeling paint and rusting on the bottom, making it a shower only, clogged sink drains, exposed pipes running from the kitchen to the bathroom floor, bathroom full of dirt and dust because it wasn't deep cleaned properly before renting. No amenities like, say, no dishwashers and no washer and dryers. I just described the place I rented for $1,200 a month because it was a decent layout and neighborhood and far better than anything else I looked for at the same price or more. This is just 2.5 years ago. And I looked a lot. I ended up getting the tub fixed after months and months of properly making requests to the management company. I didn't get the same help when needing access to the utility box. National Grid said that they would not come out to help me get into the utility room anymore to flip a breaker because other tenants with a key wouldn't let me in, and management didn't care if I had a key or not with the freezing weather coming on. I didn't want to make waves because this is my first rental in Troy, and I want a good rental history to move to a better place in a year or so. But this is also part of the systemic landlord control imbalance. Landlords know a good reference from them will put the fear of God in a tenant to remain living in bad conditions. Or in my situation, the landlords know they can string you along for months into a year, maybe years. It was a year from me because they know it's their word against the tenants in their next move. This is pathetic. Please, I'm begging you to give renters at least a fighting chance by opting in for protection. Let's take fear out of the equation. Keep the population of Troy growing and caring. The tenants want to make this happen so they can love where they live. With your approval of opt-in, you will give the city and its resourceful tenants dignity and a fighting chance instead of a cruel one-sided landlord eviction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fine, what's up? I'm Dan, live in Rensselaer County. I run the Oakwood Community Center Food Pantry. Ryan's volunteered there before. He's awesome. Please come back. We have some electrical crap that's going on. Okay, I'd like to speak on the topic of the good cause eviction policy, the effects on the neighborhoods we serve. We serve mainly the 9th, 10th, Oakwood Ave, the whole area down between 10th and Hoosick where the community center is. Our pantry has tripled in the number we serve due to inflation and other crunches. I constantly hear from I talk to everyone, all of our neighborhood, the people through there, these same issues, rent being through the roof, hot water not working for endless periods of time, water in general not working. These are working families, these are elderly folks, disabled folks, households with children. We have people who are there for the first time because the pressures of the inflation, everything has put them right off the edge. So now we have to, make sure that we're trying to help those folks as well. Many of the folks do not speak up due to fear of eviction, the hassle of the court system, reprisal from landlords. Many folks are working multiple jobs, have children. So it's frightening to think that you're going to have to, if you tell someone how the heat doesn't work in the middle of winter, they're just going to bounce your family, your kids, and everything like that right on the street. The folks in these neighborhoods are also a community. So when someone gets bounced out, who maybe is an older woman, she's also related to half the other folks in these neighborhoods. This is the woman who watches kids for other neighbors so they can go to work on a Friday night and try to get that. The folks in these neighborhoods need to be able to live peacefully, do their jobs, raise their kids without the dread of being forced out for no reason, get squeezed harder and harder for a profit, or to be made to live in deplorable conditions. Most of these neighborhoods have family members, church members, like I said, friends and family that look out for each other. Many of these families have been living here for years, if not generations. They're a community, but the honor of getting to know many of these folks. They're good, hardworking, honest folks who are just looking to live their lives and deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. We are at a point where an awful lot of people are losing hope in government, in each other, in themselves. We have the opportunity to show folks that there are people looking to help and do the right and decent thing. We can stand with the strong, and stand for the weak and vulnerable. This moment is yours. Do not waste it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Ashley, Lansingburg. In reference to good cause, there are so many people who are held hostage in the circumstances that they're in. And my hope tonight is that you have not been overwhelmed with all of the business that you've had to attend to, that you're not hearing. When code is called out to a house that shouldn't be open, that should not be allowed any human being should live in. And code has warned that landlord that they need to repair the electrical, the outlets because of the risk of fire, which the young lady mentioned in reference to her outlets. That's a fire hazard. And all of us know that if anyone has to live like that with extension cords and whatnot, we know there's a fire hazard because it's an electrical issue. One other thing that comes to mind, though, is that we have code enforcement and we let these individuals off the hook too easily. They aren't even given a pat on the wrist, and yet they're breaking the law. They are responsible and they contribute a great deal, I should say, to the communities coming down, the slumlords living out of state, out of city. And they rent these places, and they're not just houses, they're apartment buildings, some of them. And they are allowed to get away with these crimes. And while we're busy trying to keep our streets safe, we're not doing anything about the people living in those very houses that aren't safe. So Good Cause addresses this and brings to the forefront problems that we as a city and you as a government can't allow to go on any longer. This is long overdue. In regards to the rents, it's go ahead, move. I've got 10 people waiting in line, desperate. And the rent will go up again for those individuals. We can put a stop to that because that's not community. Everybody's trying to make a buck, I got that. But so is the drug dealer. So what's the difference? You tell me. Because the people in those houses, in those apartments, are being taken advantage of. They don't feel safe. They are not safe, which we know. And this isn't just a bunch of people that are just making a big deal of nothing. I've been in those houses. I've helped to make the repairs out of my pocket so that the family member that was in that situation didn't have to continue because that landlord wasn't going to do it. And please don't let squirrels get in the building. The landlord doesn't know your name then. They will eat the heck out of your wiring. Your lights are flashing. And the landlord is doing nothing. So again, it's a big problem. And it isn't going to go away overnight. But tonight can be the start. Thank you.
Thank you.
back. Still nervous. Still Kate McHugh, Gorman Curry. Still live on Tibbetts. I haven't moved yet since I talked to you guys. All right. So, all right. My family, we came here from Ireland just before World War I, fleeing from one of the worst landlords in history to this day. They were evicted unfairly for running a hedge school, a covert school which taught children in English, Irish, and Latin that changed locations to avoid detection from the English landlords and police. Because, you know, speaking Irish, against the law. Also, Irish people in school teaching, also against the law. My great-grandfather and his family came to Troy straight from Ireland and moved to Walnut Street. Their child, my grandmother, moved to Tibbetts Ave. Her child moved across the street from her on Tibbetts Ave, and I now live also on Tibbetts Ave. During these 4 generations of Trojans, not a single one of us has failed to pay rent or destroyed a dwelling or even charged with a crime. We've been very fortunate. We have been railroad workers, nurses, teachers, GE workers, state employees, small business owners, soldiers, and even lawyers and attorneys who presented cases in Troy to judges like the father of my council person only ever heard good things. Only good things. We're a group of highly educated, intelligent, determined, and hardworking people. But the landlord in Ireland didn't care about that when my ancestors were evicted from Canalwee in County Fermanagh, which caused them to board a coffin ship headed to New York, that very same ship where their youngest child died. Good cause eviction for Troy will protect tenants, like my ancestors were once, from any potential predators that want to usurp their right to live safely without anxiety or intimidation, just like the renters that you've heard from today. As a homeowner, I want renters and tenants to have the protections from any bad faith landlords. Good cause eviction protects tenants against unfair landlords. That's very obvious. This does not protect squatters or people that do not want to pay their rent, as so I've heard people claim on Facebook. They must not be able to read what good cause is. As a small business owner myself from Troy, live in Troy, small business in Troy, myself and my co-owners are very fortunate to have a great working relationship with our landlord. When I tell other business owners and even our customers that our landlord's a good person and we have a really good working relationship with him, he's invested in our business and just ourselves too. I hear words like lucky, amazing, seriously, and how. It shouldn't be lucky to have a good landlord, just like it shouldn't be lucky to have a good teacher, a good doctor, or a good bus driver. The only people who are against laws and regulations that protects renters are usually the people who are trying to prey and usurp the rights of those tenants who should be protected. Finally, as stated in Star Trek by Captain Picard, no being is so important that he can usurp the rights of another. So with that, in the language of my ancestors, the very language that was outlawed by their landlords, that unfairly and inhumanely evicted them and treated them, Guramagat. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Dan Curry. I live on Tibbetts Avenue as well. I am a teacher at Troy High Public School, and I wish to exercise my First Amendment right in support of good cause eviction because of the alarming chronic absentee rates within our school district. For those unfamiliar, chronic absenteeism is when a student misses 10% or more of school days within one academic year. In a 180-day school year, that means a student misses about 18 days at the very least. This is a serious problem because without a regular presence in school, students fall behind their peers in reading, writing, arithmetic. These are skills crucial for economic success in adulthood. Moreover, absenteeism fosters a culture of social isolation reminiscent of the pandemic. According to the New York Department of Education, Troy High School's chronic absenteeism rate is above the state average at 39%. Of that number, students that fall under the economically disadvantaged category are disproportionately impacted. The New York State Department of Ed defines economically disadvantaged students as those who, quote, participate in or whose family participates in economic assistance programs, end quote. 69% of Troy's student body falls into this category. Among the 876 economically disadvantaged students enrolled in the 2023-24 school year, 460 were chronically absent. That is a staggering 52.5%. Compared to last year, the rate increased by 3 points. In other words, the problem is getting worse. The displacement of Troy families through unregulated evictions will only inflame the problem. Troy renters need protections and stability. Please support good cause eviction to protect renters and ease the economic burden student families face. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Frankie, and I'm a long-term renter living on a fixed income in Troy. And I'm also here tonight to highlight the need for good cause tenant protections in our city. In 2022, my apartment complex was sold to a new development company. That new owner proceeded to raise my rent by 40%. I'm sure you can imagine how shocked I was to be confronted with such a huge, unexpected change in my housing costs. I felt the same way a homeowner would if their lender was allowed to raise their mortgage payment by 40% without any reasonable justification. In the blink of an eye, I went from having the freedom to spend my modest income as I saw fit to being rent burdened and having to watch every single penny. And those personal austerity measures cast a long shadow in my life, adding anxiety to every financial decision I made and creating deep concerns about the stability of my housing situation. But that shadow also extended to the local Troy economy. My spending restrictions essentially took money out of the pockets of Troy's small businesses and the city sales tax coffers and shifted that cash to one person, my landlord. And what did my landlord give me in return for that 40% rent increase? Absolutely nothing. In fact, they promptly embraced the role of slumlord, neglecting the property and prioritizing profits over the safety and well-being of their tenants. Could my housing situation get any worse? Absolutely. Without good cause tenant protections in Troy, my landlord can continue to arbitrarily increase rental rates and ultimately price me out of this city entirely. I, like any other normal person, am terrified at the prospect of being forced out of my home and community without cause. And like any other reasonable person, I also expect my local government to help shield me from these kinds of unscrupulous business practices. Aligning Troy with New York State's good cause law, which is at its core about fairness, is a simple and effective way for this council to prevent me and many other Troy renters from being driven out of this community. Any one of you could easily put forward local legislation that opts into this state law, just as Albany and at least a dozen other cities or villages upstate have already done. And every day that you delay in doing that, more active and engaged citizens like me will reluctantly have to leave Troy, taking our wallets with us. Unaffordable rent means Troy loses out on everything renters bring to this city, from our professional skills to our volunteer time to the sales tax you collect on the money we spend here. That's why I'm here to urge you to swiftly introduce and adopt sensible good cause legislation to keep Troy vibrant and economically robust and to protect and preserve the fundamental rights of renters like us. Thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
I'm I'm Annie Borthwick, and I came to hear Sue speak. I didn't come for this, but I do want you to know something. came to Troy when I was 24 in 1969, and I bought a house in 1975. And I lived in the house for 42 years. I ended up with only 2 children, so I had 5 extra bedrooms. And I started Cherry Hall Guest House in 1984. And for 1984 until 2017, when I sold my house at the age of 72, I had more than 220 people live with me. All of them were RPI researchers, RPI grad students, foreign students. It was a great place for them because I provided a really good, beautiful mansion of a house. It was across from Bethel Baptist Church on Fifth Avenue. And I provided just exactly what they needed. Internet was right there. Everything was right there. And it worked out really well for them. And then after a while, I realized I wasn't going to be able to pay my expenses. I had divorced. I was living on my own. And being an executive secretary to the assistant vice chancellor for finance and business in SUNY, they didn't need us anymore because they had computers. And they didn't need the kinds of work that executive secretaries did. So I ended up being retired on my teeny tiny year's worth of service with the state. So I sold my house in 2017, which you might notice was before the big increase in prices, but it still was a marvelous amount. And then I ended up moving into Tapestry on the Hudson, which is the old Moravian furniture store. And I had a wonderful apartment, and I was so delighted to find out that I qualified for a slightly subsidized apartment because it was built with special subsidies. And I was 90% of the median income for Rensselaer County. So I had this beautiful apartment, and I had it for 5 years. And I was really happy, and I imagined being there for the next 20 years. But having been in charge of a big house, running a guest house for 32 years, I noticed things. I noticed the dirt. I noticed the poor quality of the equipment that they gave their workers to work with. I noticed problems with safety doors. And I noticed that the fire door on the 4th floor, my floor, the fire door on the major staircase would close and then reopen 25% of the time. Took a photograph. I checked it again. And I found it was approximately 75% of the time it would close and stay closed, and 25% of the time it would close and reopen and be open about an inch. That meant that if there's a fire on the 4th floor, smoke will get into that fire staircase. And there are 78 apartments in that building. And the front fire staircase is a major fire staircase. Many people were disabled in that place. And our fire alarms went off probably once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks for the whole time that I lived there, which meant that people had given up responding to the fire alarm. So usually we had less than 20 people who actually came out of the building when there was a fire alarm. So at the very least, they needed that fire staircase. So I took pictures, and I went down and I talked to the management, and they said, nah, that's not true. And I talked to the management, and after 2 years of taking pictures and some videos to show that this really worked, I went to the fire chief who sent me to code, and code did something. They came and they got them to fix it. Except now it's reopened 10% of the time, which is still 10% too much. In the end, they of course knew who it was who turned them in, and they evicted me after 5 years. Because I'm really pretty naive in some ways, and I always lived in a house owned by my parents or owned by me, I didn't realize how fragile the situation was for me as a tenant. So at the age of 78, I got evicted Well, I got eviction notice. I went and hired a lawyer for $780, which was a great bargain price. And I bought it thinking I was fighting the eviction, but it turned out all I was doing was getting an extra 2 months. I didn't realize that was all I was getting because, of course, even if they didn't evict me, they didn't have to sign a new lease. So I ended up, Anasha Cummings helped me pile things into trucks, and I got out of there. And then I discovered that at the age of 78 and a half, I wasn't anywhere as strong as I thought I was. I wasn't anywhere as vibrant and resilient as I thought I was. And I really didn't handle the situation very well. And it took me more than 6 months to find a place to have. So I bought a house in North Central, and I'm still working on it. I hope to be in by April 1st. But the other part of that I did not expect, because of course, renters do not always read their complete lease agreements, is that my lease agreement says that if I get evicted, I have to pay their lawyer fees. Well, I paid my lawyer fee. It was $780. My lawyer did all the work as far as I can tell. And then but 2 months after I left, I got a bill for $2,300 from their lawyer for my eviction. I paid a portion of that, but I didn't pay the whole thing because I thought it was outrageous. And last month I got a bill from a collection agency who wants the rest of the money, wants about $1,300. So the thing I want to tell you about, I did not connect with these people at this time. I have talked to them in the past, but I was sick and I didn't go to the meetings that they were organizing this with. And that's not why I came here. But I want to tell you that I was shocked. I'm planning to live another 20 years, which makes me very, very old. But I was shocked at how fragile I was as far as resilience, as far as energy level, as far as cloudy mind when I felt buffaloed. I was shocked that I didn't handle it better than I did. And I was pretty upset with how my relatives felt about me. My relatives all live at a distance. And I think they talked to each other and decided, I think Annie's, maybe she's not doing well. Maybe she's getting really old and a little bit dementia. What do you think we should do? Hell, I'm very strong and I'm back in shape again. But this is a problem that will happen to everybody sooner or later if they get old enough. And if we don't find a way to control something about the rents. I think one of the things that I know, because I was born during World War II, is that the change in our communities from the early 30 years of my early life is that we used to control each other by community esteem and community shame. And people didn't do terrible things to each other because they knew that they couldn't be a bully in public and they couldn't have difficulty. And things are different now, and people are very anonymous now. And it's time that we have to do something else to control the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jordan Helene. I live on Park Boulevard in Troy. I live right near the jewel of the city, actually, the Park Pub we heard about before. It's a good place to have wings, but I'm not here to talk about that or how I'm excited to potentially have a wedding venue right near where I live or the yellow flood lamp that constantly illuminates the entire neighborhood. I'm here to ask about something I heard revealed in the finance meeting. I heard that the city is $184,000 in arrears in its rent in this space. Is that so? Is that what we heard? Wow. 184 grand in back rent is what the city owes. Sounds like you've gotten some grace from your landlord. I think it's time for you to extend some grace to the renters of Troy by passing good cause eviction. Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name's Dan Graham. I live in Lansingburg. I was born and raised in Mechanicville, but I left the capital region for about 15 years, and I'm happy to be back. And partially because a few of the cities I lived in, the rent rose to ridiculous levels, and that hasn't happened here, and I want to keep it that way. I knocked on hundreds of doors over the past year as part of this campaign. Sorry. And I got to tell you that too many people were eager to tell me about the bad situations they found themselves in, with absent or abusive landlords and living conditions which affected the health of their families. In just a small sample of people I talked to, I heard multiple instances of black mold resulting in ER visits for both adults and children. I heard about broken appliances, broken furnaces in the winter, pest infestations, faulty wiring, fire hazards, tripping hazards, multiple instances of collapsed ceilings, and in one case, in an apartment complex, the tenants told me that the ground floor floods every few months and mushrooms grow in the hallways. In many of these cases, landlords refused to address these issues, and in other cases, out of a justified fear of retaliation, tenants chose to either pay for the fixes out of their own pocket or to just live with these hazards. And I heard from several people who were threatened with non-renewal of leases or a 25 to 30% rent increase when they asked their landlord to fix something. Good cause would protect these renters from these predatory landlords and allow them to demand habitable apartments for their families. In an interview yesterday, Councilmember Casey said that most landlords want to do the right thing. Landlords who actually do the right thing will not be affected by good cause, since it's a baseline of common sense renter protections. In fact, we got plenty of landlords signing on in support of good cause because they already value long-term tenants. They're grateful when tenants report safety hazards because they care about the long-term value of their property. But what about the landlords who don't do the right thing? The absentee landlords who make life miserable for my neighbors and your constituents. Laws are meant to keep bad actors in line and protect the vulnerable. Good cause does both. It costs the city nothing. Other cities have opted in and they're doing just fine. It exempts small landlords. It allows for evictions for non-payment of rent, property damage, or nuisance. It allows rent increases of at least 5% annually. But it gives the basic due process protections to renters who currently need them. If we had opted into good cause when it was first passed statewide last year, it would have prevented hundreds of families in Troy alone from being dislocated from their homes and communities. It would have prevented children having to move to different schools in their formative years. That's one family every day or two, and that number continues to grow every day that you delay. If any of you think, like Mr. Casey does, that there are already plenty of renter protections, I encourage you to go knock on some doors like we did and talk to your constituents. You all know the blocks in your districts where predatory landlords thrive. We can point you in the right direction if you need help. Many people that we talked to felt like politicians don't care about them, so I encourage you to go prove them wrong and ask them if they want good cause eviction protections. We're all eager to see who on this city council will protect the vulnerable and who will fall in line with special interests. We all hope you make the right decision and opt into good cause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, City Council. My name is Dylan Salica, and I'm a resident of the Washington Park neighborhood. My apartment has had collapsing stairs, no heat for several times this winter, mold growing in the ceiling, the usual for Troy, it seems like. I've recently moved to Troy. I've been here for a little under a year, and I'm trying to get invested in the city, build a sense of community and stuff, but it's really hard when I don't know if I'm going to actually be able to even get a lease renewal in the crummy apartment I currently rent. My landlords have been absentee or outright hostile when I ask for basic maintenance to be done so I don't slip on the sidewalk out front. And these lazy and bad landlords having tenants at their mercy, whether they're going to have a lease renewal or get priced out the next week or the next time their lease is renewed, makes it hard to get invested in your city and in the neighborhood that you live in. And if I knew that my home where I live and where I'm trying to start a life was secure and I could stay there if I felt like it and I could ask for things to be fixed, I'd have a much, much easier time encouraging my friends and other people to move to Troy and actually contribute to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for your comments tonight. We appreciate everyone's opinions. And at this point, if there's no one else wishing to speak, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. What we have, we have one more. Sure. Sure.
Second. Okay, good evening. I'm here to talk about good cause. My name is Dawn. I live in District 6, and I've lived in Troy for just over a year now. As someone who had to move to the capital, as someone who had to move to the capital region for work, I can tell you that it was difficult to find housing in Troy that was affordable on a modest salary and had landlords and property managers that I felt comfortable with. My housing situation is presently stable, but without good cause eviction protections, I fear that won't be the case in the future. Half of my pay goes to rent, and if there's an exorbitant rent hike, my living situation would be upended. I would have to spend a great deal of time, energy, and money to find new shelter, and while I have good relations with my landlord and property manager now, I am still at their mercy. They can, for no good reason, decide not to renew my lease or even evict me. It's a grim situation for me and the thousands of other renters in Troy, and I want to stress over 2/3 of the household in the city rent, in a city with a population of 50,000. If we, as renters in Troy, are at the mercy of these rent hikes and have no firm eviction protections in place for us, the longevity of the city is in jeopardy. As more places in New York adopt good cause eviction protections, Troy will become an outlier, deterring people seeking to move here and driving out its current residents due to out-of-control rent and offering no basic renters protections. Good cause will benefit the city's residents and newcomers by imposing limits on rent cost increases, the frequency of rent increases, guaranteeing lease renewals, and requiring landlords to provide good cause when they evict someone, like in cases of rent non-payment or serious lease violations. I want to emphasize over a dozen cities and towns in New York already have these common sense protections in place. This includes Rochester, Ithaca, my hometown of Poughkeepsie, and Albany, right across the river from us. I implore the City Council to do what is right for its constituents, join this trend, and adopt good cause protection for the city as soon as possible, or leave it to the voters to decide. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. Okay, Amanda.
I just want to quickly add, I also, in agreement with good cause protection. I can't imagine the stress of the families in Troy, 60% who do not have control over their budget in 12 months. The families that fill our schools, that we want to create relationships with, who are so vulnerable that they might just be gone because they can't afford the situation in Troy or have to move to a different school district. We need to hold our communities together. In this rental situation, just punches holes in the fabric of our community, and we're going to go nowhere fast. So I just want to say, also in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members, city staff, members of the public. I am not speaking on good cause eviction. My name is Tim Fergal. I'm the new city librarian here in Troy. Just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. All right, a lot of library fans in the house. This is great. Okay. Maybe we can end on this. So, my intent is to come to city council. I'm not a resident of Troy. We obviously have the main branch downtown and the Lansingburg branch on 114th, and provide the city with, information about what's happening at the library. Currently, we are starting our HVAC renovation project this week. We are completing the work that is being done on the roof of the main library once the weather is warm enough to, lay the caulking and get that sealed up. The Lansingburg branch, we are waiting on a grant that was awarded through the New York State Library Construction Aid Program. After our insurance claim was denied 3 times, we are still trying to find money to renovate the interior of the children's room that was damaged in a flood in December of 2023. So that was all I had for tonight. And, strong libraries build strong communities. I was a poet before I became a librarian. And I think of the poet by Maggie Smith, Good Bones, we can make this place beautiful. So I'm just trying to build a library that everyone in Troy can be proud of. So thank you.
Great. Thank you and welcome to Troy. We look forward to lots of good news from the library. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Oh.